Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to another episode of the Simpa Life Podcast. It is episode 84. You may notice we're in a very new swanky space. It's a little bit dimly lit right now, but yeah, this is what I've been working on. I'm quite proud of this. You can't really tell because of actually how poor the lighting is, but this is all recycled pallet wood. Big shout out to my mate Chris for storing all this wood over various weeks and months, building it up to allow a madman like me to make this dream come to fruition. But yeah, it's a lovely little studio space. As you probably can't tell as well, it's a lovely shade of green. But yeah, I'll figure out the lighting over the coming weeks. You know what I'm like. I get my shit together eventually. But yeah, to segue on, we have a wonderful guest this week. It's kind of the, completion of a swapcast in some ways, because I recently appeared on his wonderful podcast, The Grove Street Journal. So without further ado, today's guest is a digital entrepreneur and creator who is the director of Urbanistic, an alternative supply company, and the host of the Grove Street Journal podcast, as I've just intimated. He is Francis Hall. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. Good to be here on your show this time. Setup's looking sick there, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's the light I'm not quite happy with, but in terms of the way it's put together, I enjoy it. I mean, for long-time viewers, I have a cat bed finally, so the little bugger, when he wants to be in and around me, doesn't have to be jumping on the desk. He can sleep cozy in his little coffin box down there, bless him. And yeah, got a nice little sort of TV on the wall. I'm going to do, some sort of reaction videos and stuff. I don't know. I just wanted a purpose-built space to be a bit more, professional and a bit more kind of on it and committed to this kind of evolution and organic growth of the channel and the platform.
It's looking really good. I would just say it's ambient lighting. You know, us tokers don't always love those really super bright places. So it looks like a good vibe to me.
Yeah, man, I wanted to go for, again, you can't quite tell with the dark wood and the green. It's gone for like I'm taking it back. It's like the Etonian kind of old school, big corporate desks. Do you know what I mean? Like the Captain style, or it's like
with a shit ton of chewing gum stuck under the table.
Yeah, yeah. Or like the optics of it is almost like the smoker's room at some fancy university with, again, the swank of the green and the brown. And yeah, I just wanted it to feel, more me, I guess. And the colors that I've drawn from the new place that I'm at in general is from the logo. So I've tried to go with like the greens and the yellow from it and take like a lot of the black and the white contrast. And just make it to feel like I'm living in the Simpa Life logo.
Headmaster's office. Is that a hempcrete brick that I see on the side of your desk?
Well, got a lovely concrete brick. Got printed cannabis plastics. Got some cannabis paper infused with cannabis graphene ink. That's a thermal block, and obviously a bit of your innards. I've actually got.
That's awesome.
I've got some huge bits like this, ginormous blocks, which I'm thinking of putting a couple here. So next week, guys, you might see some ginormous bits of concrete here. I haven't decided yet. I've just got brand new carpets down, and then I'm thinking about the mess that's going to make. You can tell I'm proper mature these days. I'm worried about my carpets.
That's a sign of the times, isn't it, brother? How things change. All for the better, though. I feel, it's an evolution. It's a natural evolution of things. It's looking very nice there. It's a nice little den that you've created. And it pisses me off, like hempcrete. Why isn't it everywhere? Why isn't it in every house, particularly in Canada? Every year, a bunch of trees, forest fires, houses get burned to the ground. People lose their entire lives and memories. People have to evacuate. Every so many houses are built out of wood still. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. Especially in regions of the world where they can't kind of produce bricks in the same way. They can't mine and mill stone in the same way. So they're still with traditional with timber. And again, you look at then the tensile strength of it in putting it in places like Hurricane Alley and stuff like that, where it would then help with other forms of natural disasters to ensure that homes survive. I mean, its thermodynamic properties is amazing. Anyone that's seen the short little videos of people with those like thermal I don't know what it is, like a fan with a flame on it, just projecting onto these cannabis composite building materials, and it just does nothing to it. It chars it a little on the external. Like they are so unbelievable. I mean, the flame resistant, pest resistant, mold resistant. You know, the moisture resistant. They breathe and continue to sequester carbon for years after. It's such an unbelievable building block. I mean, it's one of the questions I asked when I was at a farm in California in 2018, and I pointed to this guy's ginormous mulch pile of all of his sticks and stalks, and he basically explained that under license he can only extract the flowers. He can't extract the industrial properties of it, so it suddenly becomes a byproduct that is useful and worth money. It can't be a byproduct. It can only be a primary product. So they're not allowing these byproducts to become streams of revenue. So we just ended up wasting all of this, what is considered waste material, which just isn't. It is still primary functional material, as you say, can build houses that can withstand natural wildfires, that can then be more thermodynamic to actually improve energy efficiency. Yeah.
Amen to that. Exactly. It makes a lot of sense. Doesn't really have many drawbacks, except that it's not load bearing, but that's just something that you can work with. Well, that cannabis waste thing's the same in Canada here as well, bro. Unfortunately, like so much waste from all the other parts of the plant.
It's the same everywhere. I think the only places that might have an opportunity to get this right, maybe Thailand, maybe sort of if Indonesia figures out its shit, just generally in that kind of region, because of the general ethos and their understanding of what air quotes hemp is to them in terms of the way that it expresses as a plant, in terms of its taxonomy, that it's less of the fiber, it is more of what you would consider in the West to be, us in the West to consider to be more indica type. It muddies the waters a lot. So they've got a lot more diversity with what they could do with it. Whereas if we then stick to just saying, it needs to be hempcrete, as it were, rather than saying, no, well, cannabis, it's restrictive to saying that then only the primary material could be grown in low THC cannabis, air quotes hemp, to make that product, whereas it could be truly the byproduct of, imagine the council estates around here in Durham. Think of this, guys, for a second, if you're living in the UK. So about every council estate probably got one or two grows on every street. The sticks and stalks that they would produce over 10 years is probably enough to build one or two houses on that street. But that just goes into mulch now. It goes into bins, it goes into gardens, it gets fly tipped. So it costs councils tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, when it could be collected together on amnesty to then build the homes of the future. It doesn't need to be specific good quality cannabis. Is it cannabis? Yes, then it will break down to the material to mix with lime and water and make concrete.
I guess it's the processing as well, right? Like how expensive is the processing to set up? These stalks are they're tough. And
it's cauterization, but that's a lack of central investment. You know what I mean?
Their approach is just, it speaks to everything that's wrong with our governments, and ignoring the corruption and willful ignorance for a second, but just the ability to want to dissect things and just focus on one thing at the expense of everything else, rather than the holistic approach, is one of the biggest failings of our society. Oftentimes, I think
it's also one of the biggest successes of neoliberalism, and that's why it continues to persist. It is that wonderful ability that they've created, and I say that in irony, for the left hand to not know what the right is doing. They have built these systems of specialities and of specification that there are people that have done degrees for 3 to 30 years of education and specific training, but don't have a clue how their field applies to anything outside of it. They're dumb smart, if you know what I mean. And neoliberalism has created generations of dumb smart people that are really good at what they're one thing they know how to do, but they don't know how it fits in with anything else. And that mentality has gone into cannabis. And instead of us going, we could power all of the fuel we ever need off this thing. We could also then use it as a building resource. We could replace plastics. We could food. We could medicine. We could this. We could this. We can't do that because neoliberalism doesn't allow that, because that's not good for the markets. That's not good for the shareholders and the stakeholders,
Yes, it's some bullshit. I think it's going to change. It's all boiling up now, and yeah.
Especially over there. I suppose we should actually let's get rolling with some with some questions so we can get into this, because I do want to talk quite a lot about the comparative differences between Canada and the UK. In terms of drug cultures, especially specifically around cannabis, and kind of how different countries have handled the lockdowns and kind of, the C word in general. I think we're allowed to say it these days. I don't know. But fuck it. Fuck the system. COVID. There you go. I said it. So, yeah, let's go on to the first question I wanted to ask, which probably grounds us as a good base for this. Sort of when and how, I suppose, did you first get involved with sort of cannabis and cannabis culture?
Oh gosh, well, two separate ones there, because I got involved with cannabis when I was around 14 years old. Fell into that kind of crowd, a bit more of a chilled crowd, going around to my friend's house where his parents were very lenient about it. So I was able to smoke up in their room, and we used to make music. We used to play a lot of video games, generally be creative, all of those nostalgic, crazy, stomach aching giggles and laughter. But it wasn't until I kind of would get into the culture until much later in my 20s, actually. I was working at IBM, going through the system, I'd still always be, I sold cannabis here and there a little bit, and always like dabbled in that side of it, but never appreciated it as anything like medicinal, therapeutic, or all of the applications of which we've just been touching on. And that didn't come until much later, when I'd gone to university, got a job in the city, and earned a little bit of like money for the first time doing that. And then as soon as I kind of wasn't in debt and had a little bit of like money in my savings account, suddenly I just realized that there was like no more happiness to be gained from just like continuing to do that, and just really got into cannabis from there. I started microdosing, like grew one of these mushroom grow kits for the first time, and dried those and got them into capsules, which was just like an incredibly exciting new journey. And so yeah, that was probably around 2016, 15 or 16. So yeah. And then from there, man, just like quit my job at IBM and started up Urbanistic. I'd already started it while I was at IBM, and I was doing it as a side hustle. Started selling loose leaf tea, actually did a few like tea fairs, markets in and around London. That was good fun. But I realized like I wasn't that passionate about tea, and kind of looked for something to pivot to, and basically saw that there were some really cool cannabis vaporizers, the dry herb vaporizers that were coming out in the States, and you couldn't really get them in the UK. I thought, well, I'll just contact a few of these companies and see if I could start selling them on my store. And so that's what I did. And yeah, I've been keeping that company growing since. When I moved to Canada a few years ago, I started it here as well. It's definitely starting to branch a little bit from being just like a generic wholesale retailer of dry herb vaporizers to more of like a harm reduction kind of company. Dry herb vaporizers are a great way of getting that similar kind of experience and duration and level of onset that you get from smoking a joint, but without the negatives and downsides that you get from combusting any plant material, especially on a regular basis. I say that with a joint in my hand. I still enjoy the full spectrum that cannabis has to offer. So we've gone, deep into that, and also more recently we have got into microscopes, particularly just like consumer level microscopes. So the ones we sell are about 145 pounds. It's like a desktop microscope. I should have bought it. It's in the other room with an LCD screen on. And we tried a whole bunch of microscopes, and this was like the best one that we found for the least amount of money. And it's just amazing for looking at your cannabis at a much greater detail. And like, holy shit, man, the things that you find under a microscope with your cannabis, it's fucking crazy, and it's awesome. And I feel like a school kid. I feel like I'm getting back the years of lost at school, just out around the back smoking, having jokes with friends, and just not engaging in the education piece at all. I feel like I'm getting those years of my life back now by just kind of scoping all the weed, learning to evaluate the cannabis based on the trichomes, How robust are they? Like, what color are they? Are there any undesirables that are in the weed? And so, yeah, that's been a real great learning journey that I'm excited about. My business partner, Tom Different, founder of the Different Collective. It's a collective of cannabis freelancers, content creators, all sorts of people that are just like passionate, have side hustles, or are, going on their own journeys. And it's just like an incredible mycelial like network that's spreading out and like injecting a lot of good vibes. So him and I are creating microscope workshops and online courses. We're going to be doing these workshops like in some cannabis stores here on Vancouver Island in the next few months. And so, yeah, it's been a real cool journey with the microscopes, and we found some pretty interesting stuff in legally purchased cannabis here in Canada. So it just goes to show, like, you should always check out your weed and make sure you know what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, man, for sure. So what sort of contaminants and nasties have you found in the legal supply when looking?
Oh, so we found mold, like jar rot, powdery mildew. We found insects, rove beetles. We found, you find like the odd hair and things like that, which, I don't mind about too much, but still. And what else did I recently find? Found an anther last week, which was kind of interesting. So, maybe indicative that the plant has been under quite a bit of stress, or there's something going on with the genetics there. Still smoke that weed, that's fine. It was still like it's pretty good. It wasn't amazing. So yeah, it's, a good range of stuff. But mold is actually quite commonly found in the legal stores, and so sometimes a company will do. What's supposed to happen is it gets reported to like the government, who are in control of everything, and then they'll kind of like talk to the LP, and if it's just like a one-off case, I think they just kind of like leave it to the LPs to decide what to do. But if it keeps on happening, then they'll step in. The LP is encouraged to do like a voluntary recall. But I understand that a lot of companies, their reps will just like stop by and pick up the weed from the retail store that's reported it, and that'll be that. So it's an interesting one because mold, it does happen, and we don't just want to be like, okay, we'll just irradiate all of the cannabis, then problem solved. We don't want them to go down a route like that, and it's unfortunate when you have craft growers and they're just getting established in the industry, maybe new soil beds, new facility, new genetics. There's a lot of like new shit there. And sometimes you need time to iron that out. But a lot of these companies are operating on, tough budgets. They're not making the same money that they would have been making in the black market. There's all sorts of levies and taxes now that really like cuts into the viability for the retail stores and the licensed producers. And so, it's tough. They get one bad batch that they have to then recall, refund all that money that they got for selling the batch, and then they have to destroy it. There's nothing they can do with it. We wouldn't want that to happen, essentially, for those companies, because mistakes can be made. However, it's the companies where it's, a repeated problem and it just keeps getting brushed under the carpet, and there's nothing proactive there in them trying to improve the grow and stop these undesirables coming through. Often like the big corporations, and, unfortunately, a lot of that cannabis is now coming through to you guys in, Germany and the UK and Australia through medical channels, which is just fucking bullshit. Aurora are now selling more internationally than they are within Canada, because no one in Canada in their right mind would buy Aurora weed most of the time. It doesn't have a great reputation for quality. So yeah, all of that stuff's going out to those kind of channels, which is unfortunate. So it's more like those entities that just are making money and churning it out. They're the ones that should be held accountable, I think.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. And not just in terms of it then making its way through to the lawful market through prescription here in the UK, Germany, and several of the European countries, but also its adult consumption, or so-called recreational products that are then failing mass supply, are then getting exported to places like the UK. It's the same with the Cali stuff. It's the same with any mass market product. When it fails in that territory, still looks like weed, but let's go sell it somewhere where they're not going to test it. They're not going to give a shit about it. They're just going to care what it looks like, what it smells like. Oh, we can say it's imported. Tell them it's this. Boom, job done. You take a product that would have been a tax write-off and gone in the bin to suddenly be a tax write-off that has, air quote, gone in the bin, that has also made you a nice net profit on the other side of it. And so it's ridiculous, the logistics of this. I mean, we talked about before, or we started this conversation by saying the frustration of not using the whole plant when using any part of the plant. The biggest frustration I have right now is that there are 15,000+ people prescribed cannabis in the UK, and all of that weed is coming from Israel, Australia, Canada, America. The carbon footprint on this, the number of people that have to touch this, the plastics that are produced in the packaging, you know, all the labels and all of this other infrastructure that just doesn't need to exist, when you could just go, well, cultivate your relationship with cannabis, you know, have the local systems providing and producing. So then you've not got mold because it's not sat in transit for 6 months. It's border stuck somewhere. It's not in a warehouse somewhere waiting for some speculative guy to come along and tick it off with a clipboard so it goes on a truck somewhere and makes it back to another wholesaler who sells it to another wholesaler who sells it to a third wholesaler. We see this constantly. If then the box saying, "Oh, call it this," boom, and it's a different product to what it started as. It's gone in one warehouse and come out with a different package. There's allegations, again, we'll say allegedly, of this occurring in the UK, of things coming in and being GMP good manufacturing practices occurred onto it. So a bulk product comes in the UK, it's packaged up in such a way that then when it's sent out, it's a GMP product, but it's labeled completely different to the bulk that came in. Again, allegedly. Well, being very smart there to not name any companies either as well. But again, anybody that's kind of within the know will have heard these allegations. Hey, I'm 84 episodes into this. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. No, unfortunately, the smoke and mirrors is it's a result of the institutional club. Yeah, and Aurora, for example, are backed by, I don't know, it's either Vanguard or BlackRock, you know, one of those two big boys. And so when you're operating at those levels, somewhere up the chain in this group of stakeholders associated with that company are some of the world's most influential people. And they can make things happen, and they're making things happen to maximize their return on their investments. And so that's why these companies, where they're making shit weed, but it doesn't matter, because you can just fly it in to somewhere where, like the UK, where it's illegal, but they're growing a shit ton of it. Are they still, I know a few years ago in the United Nations report, they were the biggest exporter of medical cannabis in the world. You like, what's happening with that stuff? Yeah. Is all that stuff still
I haven't checked on the statistics, but bear in mind, the Home Office have issued 2 more licenses. And then in terms of cultivation of CBD rich or low THC, I'm avoiding the word hemp. I'm trying really hard to not have a whole thing about hemp, because anyone that's watched this knows that I don't believe hemp exists, frankly. It's a misnomer. Same with medical cannabis is a misnomer. It's a medicinal use of, but I'm trying not to make that the point of the usage. Go on.
I don't know. Like it's useful as a word where you can say hemp, and I kind of already know what you're getting at, you know, which is like more the industrial application of the cannabis plant.
Which I wouldn't have a problem with if it was a standardized term where we all use it across the world. So I'm pushing a lot of the air quotes hemp activists here in the UK, and quite a few of them are, to be fair, you know, with respect, saying hemp cannabis. And I can live with that. I can entirely live with calling it hemp cannabis, because you're being correct. You're not saying that hemp is separate from cannabis. You were saying hemp cannabis. I can live with that.
Because let's not lose the identity of like what hemp is, because hemp should be celebrated, you know, for like clothing and the hemp
if you want to call it the industrial use of. But I mean, the other side of that is obviously studies that are coming out of America, which is part of the body of research which is pushing for this universal 1% for the air quotes hemp industry around the world, because the efficacy, the health, and the productivity of the plant when it becomes cannabis compared to hemp is like 25 to 50 fold. The benefit of it, its yield, like I said, for the health of it, for the plethora of cannabinoids to actually be produced in the terpenoids, for it all to actually develop at such a rate, it is about that 1% THC. So it is almost, you could argue it's a separate species. It's not according to the breakdown of the genus, subgenus in the International Botanical Dictionary. But in terms of then the way it presents, you're limiting in it. You've tied both hands behind its back. But as soon as you that THC limit, but then it becomes an arbitrary thing of then all of a sudden it's not. That's just low THC cannabis. So I think eventually this will deal with itself. There'll only be cannabis in the future, or there'll be no future. That's my paraphrasing of Jack Herrer right there.
For me, the name in it of itself isn't problem. It's the levels of bureaucracy, and you know, I do agree with you that they use this. They do use it to like subjugate and keep things separate and put all of this arbitrary bullshit on top of it. So it's like I want to get rid of that. And then it's like, yeah, fucking hemp, cool. Like, yeah, industrial cannabis, like, you know, specific species or varieties of cannabis sativa growing nice and tall, and you're not getting big flowers for them, and they're not going to be high in THC. Let's go nuts.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, the main reason that people use hemp is because they're scared to use the word cannabis in most contexts. Whereas if then the war
like
was
CBD, I get that a lot.
Yeah, if the war was truly over and there was no shame, no stigma, it would all be cannabis. Because again, this is my issue with a lot of these things, and it's like I've had a few victories with the medical cannabis concept. I'm actually writing my latest for Weed World is going to be a little bit controversial. I'm claiming that medical cannabis doesn't exist, but again, just me kind of
controversial.
Never. I'm going after again language here, because it's medicinal use of cannabis is correct nomenclature and terminology, because it then states that cannabis, the universal plant, in this application is being used for medicine. That is English. That's language that is universal. That makes sense. Whereas when we're saying medical cannabis, it creates a compound term that actually it's two words together defined with a capital term at the start, makes it my English grammar is gone from me. But yeah, that makes it a pronoun? I think it's a pronoun. And then from that, it's a descriptor of a new term. And in the UK, medical cannabis is defined as a CVMP, a cannabis-based product for medicinal use in humans, which is on its own language says in the first sentence is/or a cannabis-based product made for human consumption. So a CVMP medical cannabis is cannabis. It says that in its own constructive language, but the reason they don't want you to say that you're using cannabis as medicine rather than saying you're using medical cannabis is because they're trying to create two separate realities. So you'll fight for one that builds itself on the graves and the bodies of the other.
Yeah.
Whereas if you allow just one, it brings the other automatically. A world in which cannabis is truly descheduled, there is the best medical access, because guess what? Everything that is cannabis is there and it's accessible. Yeah. This is something I wanted to ask you: is how is the prescription? It's not less, I suppose, prescription. It is, we'll call it medicinal use of cannabis going in Canada. Now there is this quite well-established recreational market, so-called recreational adult use market.
That's actually a good question, because medical cannabis hasn't integrated into healthcare in Canada. I don't think doctors are still particularly educated on cannabis, not any that I've come across. So there's started up these medical providers, and you can register online. You have to do a quick consultation. You can download an app or go online and schedule something the same day to speak to someone that, again, probably doesn't necessarily have a comprehensive level of cannabis knowledge. They may do though, yeah, enough to just give you a prescription basically, and then you can take your prescription. I think it has about a 3-month or so duration, maybe a little bit longer, and then you have to renew it. And then with that prescription, you can go online and you can order cannabis and get it sent to you in the mail. So individual licensed producers can sell you their cannabis direct to consumer through medical channels. So these guys, Coast Mountain Cannabis, we went to their Pemberton facility to film some content a couple of weeks back. They have like a medical side, and they have a strain called Dancehall. It's organic. They grow in living soil. They're incredible people, incredible growers. That Dancehall is a 1-to-1 cultivar, so it's a low THC. It's around 8% THC, 11% CBD, and you open the top and it's the most incredible cannabis you've ever smelled. So that's what I get excited about, is that kind of stuff. So they have that through their medical channels. But other than that, like it's just interesting that it hasn't integrated into healthcare at all. It's just like created this separate entity essentially. And a lot of people, I worked in a few cannabis stores in the last couple of years. I worked for the government for about a year as a cannabis consultant. I know, but hey, if you came out to Canada as they just legalized cannabis, and you have the chance to like open like one of the first stores. It's a government-run store because they fund
I'm joshing with you. I'm joshing. I
know. But like, at the time, I was just like, I was so excited. Like it was really, really amazing to be able to come over from somewhere that was illegal and actually get paid a salary and a pension by the government just to like hang out in a really nice building and talk weed with customers. And they'd have a lot of people coming in on the medical side, so many people coming in that wanted to talk medical. And we're always told we can't talk about medical, we're a recreational store, all of that kind of stuff. You develop ways of talking with people and like disseminating knowledge in an indirect kind of or vague, non-committal way that like is okay and is safe, but helps to get that message across. So medical is kind of like all over the place in Canada, I'd say. Yeah,
I mean that's one of the things that I keep hearing from different activists in Europe, that they worry that a movement towards an adult consumption market in UK or Europe would harm the medicinal market, the prescription market, like it has been in Canada. And my argument, or what I don't understand is exactly that once then, okay, if you think, all right, let's create medicinal use of channels first, then create adult consumption after, why then exactly that? Everything that's cannabis that then isn't medicine is taken up by cannabis because it's cannabis. That's the whole point of having that cannabis industry, that everything can be done as part of it because the war is over. And therefore any of the specific medications, like the Epidiolex, whatever, then they're medicines, they should be integrated. And that basic education of doctors to understanding endocannabinoid system should be there. But it just isn't in any of the markets that are developed, except for, I don't want to get conspiratorial here, but Israel. They seem to be the only market that are creating actual left hand knows what right hand is doing in academia. They're building all of this, they are studying every part of it. They're creating heavy patents. There've been a lot of research and a lot of experimentation projects running with other countries, and they are correlating a great amount of information about this. They're the only country I know that are working on trying to map. In fact, I think this project has even come to fruition to map basically your genome versus then to cannabinoid profile, to then go, actually these terpenes, these monoterpenes, these sequestered terpenes, plus these flavonoids, plus this, and basically work out the perfect profile for you, and then match that to cultivars and thing, and then work. Do you know what I mean? To be able to get that kind of specific, that's the next
side of it.
That's the future of it for me. And it should almost be engineered, but the rest of it, in terms of me going to a shop and going, let's try Master Kush today, let's try whatever, and that relationship, that visceral feedback should be the same way with food. the relationships we're allowed to cultivate with food and other sort of activities that, yes, can be dangerous and destructive to ourselves if we allow it to be. But if you provide us with education and I'm an adult, why are you involved in this? If I paid for it lawfully, if I stole the thing, no, then I can abuse it as much as I fucking want. And those they're the conversations that they're scared of. I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about actually was
I'm just plugging my light in.
No worries.
Yeah, it was on the battery, so I've just plugged it into the light there, and we should be back in business, my friend. Sorry for the interruption there.
No worries. I love how professional we both are with this. We're getting there, you know. These youngins of this technology. Exactly. We'll figure it out.
It's you're just always learning and picking up new skills with this. But yeah, you know, I think you touched on that really interesting point about the DNA sequencing. And I think that has got a lot, like I'm interested in that because I do think that it could be very useful to, like you say, give someone an idea of like what might be optimal for them, you know, what terpenes they should look for and which terpenes they should avoid. A lot of people have like allergies and whatnot to terpenes.
Exactly, and that's this thing of them people having temporary psychosis-like events and issues after consuming certain cultivars. That again, the other side of that, and I again, in the ideal world, this is wonderful technology. The applications of this can only be beneficial to mankind.
Yeah.
But then I look at the world and I think about, I'm 34 now. I've played this game. We've gone around this big gas ball a few times. I'm starting to understand your patterns. The neoliberalists run this shit, and exactly what we said before, they're going to break it down. And so that is worrisome to me, that I don't mind them doing, and I'm actually happy to support them doing all of that research in different corners of the world if we have the same ability to access that. If I then also can grow plants in my house and then do my own experiments, build my own data, you know, work on my own
it should all be like my own completely open source.
Yeah, every single, if one of us is allowed to fuck around with it, we should all be allowed to fuck around with it. That was like, Mum told us that when we were all fucking young, you had to share your fucking toys. That was like one of the things they got into us. Why did we put that down? We're still teaching the kids, and then we go, well, there's this thing, it's this amazing thing, and we don't quite know all of the wonderful things it does or all the potential negative things it does. And we can't really trust anybody that's done a lot of the other stuff of the research into it previous to this, because they were either prohibitionists or venture investors. That was a Freudian.
There's too much money at stake. Too much money at stake, and we've seen, you know, the BMJ have reported on the evidence-based medicine. It's slightly open to bias and influence and conflicts of interest. So it's been this small group of people that get to do hold all of the cards and the information and decide who gets what. And it's like, okay, well, that looks good. Like, let's fucking sell that, or we're selling that. Oh, we can't let this bad information come out and whatnot. So we should. Like, this is why I love the microscopes and the stuff we're doing like this. And there's mini PCR kit that you can get to test mushrooms and do like DNA sequencing of mushrooms as well. And like, this is really exciting to me. It's like people now can be citizen scientists and generate to a greater pool of data and globally just start to gain intelligence from doing these little experiments.
Yeah, and that's what we need to, because they're gonna. My biggest fear in all of this is there will come a generation that doesn't know that cannabis was a plant, that us rolling it, us sitting together, the ritual of being a teenager and sneaking the fucking papers, sprinting, and your mate getting that little bit of horrible pressed, council estate tack or whatever it is you kids have got these days because you're spoiled rotten with your live rosins and all the rest of it. But the ritual of getting you all together and having that first experience. I don't care about what age. We can argue about that later. Fuck off for a minute. Park that. But the connection, the experience, the culture. That again, if you choose to go that way, then very, very, very few people I've ever spoken to can say that the entirety of their experience is bad. They may have bad aspects of it or negative experiences and memories and associations to it, but they always remember the camaraderie of cannabis, the culture, the the carnival spirit of it. Every day with weed is a celebration. You know, there's that cliched meme of, you know, when I first started smoking weed, I said I'd only do it on special days. Little did I know, every day is special.
Yeah. It's a lifestyle, man. It's a great culture.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different people that are part of this culture. But, you know, this whole like medical cannabis thing, just to touch on this again, because I'm kind of thinking maybe we should not use cannabis recreational and medical. Maybe there's just like mindful cannabis use.
I've been using the term for a while now, conscious consumption.
So, because for me, that makes all of the difference of whether something is like medical or non-medical.
Yeah, because again, if I'm chill, so relaxed. Yeah, what you've done is reduce your cortisol levels. You've dropped stress being the predominant underlying factor of all inflammatory-based conditions and ailments. Do you know what I mean? We're really starting to understand that actually, if you observe animals in nature, for example, where they're like twitch and move, and they move energies, and they're understanding how stress and expectation and that you watch an animal that's then pent up waiting for food or is aggressive, and they're more likely to then, like I said, these shakes, these twitches, these stretches, these maneuvers to deal with this tension and built up energy. So then as humans, we do the same. You go through your day of whatever and use your average cannabis consumer, you come in and the first few talks, it's just an energy change. And again, it's a tool. It's such a powerful tool. Yeah, you can, if you want, go waste your fucking life with weed. But that same person was probably predestined in a lot of ways, if you want to get into this deterministic debate, to probably have a predisposition to be likely to do that with other substances. Do you know
absolutely.
What I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, cannabis is just the tool, and anyone can abuse the tool. And, you know, these days I've actually, I smoke quite a lot less than I used to. I vape quite a bit. I still enjoy a cheeky hash joint, especially when I get to go on a nice podcast and talk to a good man. So, but you know, it's like that mindfulness, and just I'm way more selective about what I smoke. I just want to smoke something like a little bit of something that is going to taste good, make me feel nice, depending on what time of day, whether it's like a lilac diesel that's like heavy on that terpenoline, it's going to make me feel really like uplifted and energetic during the day, or whether it's just something to like mellow out in the evening that's just going to help like relax my body and get me ready for bed. Whereas, you know, before I came to Canada, even when I was in the UK, I was still just like, I'd buy an ounce off my dealer. It'd usually be like a lemon haze. And it would be nice, but it was just like, that's your weed, and you're smoking it like all time of day, like, you know, until it's gone. Whereas now it's just like, I don't even want to think about how many different strains and whatnot I have, like just smaller amounts of them, you know, like I just buy an eighth at a time of various stuff and cycle it all, because then, you know, you're keeping all of those cannabinoids and terpenes fresh on your body. And it helps tolerance as well. Like you build a tolerance up to that like same product if you keep using it. So it's the rotation is nice, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That is, I can feel a lot of my listeners salivating at the thought of like, oh man, yeah, to have all of those different cultivars and cupboards of just, I really feel like I want to be motivated, but slightly mellow, but, you know, within this exact, you know what I mean? To have that awareness and relationship and connection, a lot of people would be greatly envious, because unless you've been lucky enough to cultivate your own, it's really difficult to notice the subtleties and the nuance of certain cultivars' effects until you have several of them at once to be able to go compare them directly and understand that, when I smell this, I feel this. I mean, the other side of the thing I wanted to ask you about is how Canada's evolving in terms of marketing towards consumers. We're slowly seeing the end of indica sativa hybrid conversation and the bullshit towards that. But what we're not yet seeing anywhere is this conversation of going, well, your endocannabinoid system is different from their endocannabinoid system is different from theirs. So we all give you the exact same clone, the exact same flower, the exact same dose. We can't tell you how it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
We can give you a rough estimate. We can give you on average, but We need to have this adult conversation. If we were doing this with any other drug or any other substance on earth, people would be like, what the fuck are you doing? How are you giving somebody something, telling them it'll do something, and you have no way to assure that it will? It's ridiculous.
It's an interesting one. Yeah. And I want to thank you for bringing that up, actually, because you're absolutely right. Like, it is fucking amazing to have all of these options and to be able to walk into a store and, you know, there could be, I don't know, like 40, 50 different flower options that you can choose from. Extracts, there's cannabis infused beverages now, so all sorts of like kombuchas, like healthy drinks, sparkling drinks infused, although the limit on that's still like 10 milligrams of THC per can, so you know, there's nothing highly potent there. Edibles, again, still locked in at 10 milligrams per edible, so I think probably a lot of people still go to the black market or buy from the indigenous stores, which are, you know, sovereign. They don't have to play by the regulations set up by the government.
Big up the First Nation.
Big up, exactly. Yeah. You guys do your thing. Fuck yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, like, it's easy to just come and take that for granted and just start, you know, thinking about everything that's wrong in the industry, like all of these silly arbitrary limits and rules that are in place. But at the end of the day, and look, it's like the cost of admission in this current society, like short of anything like from a full-blown revolution, it's take it or leave it. This is what you're going to get with legalization, like in the UK. It'll be dominated by like the big entities, mom and pop shops and things like that, probably be like locked out, like small businesses, going to be very, very difficult, very, very expensive to do it. That's the way it's going to happen. And the big players are going to make a lot of money from it. And yeah, that's bullshit, but it seems like it's kind of going to be the reality. However, it's like Pandora's box. Like, once you've legalized cannabis, even if it's a really shitty system, you can work to make it better. And the thing that gets out there that there's no going back is like the education, the awareness, and the changing of perception from people that equate morally wrong and right with legal or illegal. Unfortunately, there's many people out there that seem to think those things are intrinsically linked. And so therefore, when you legalize cannabis, even if it is this shitty, you know, oligopoly system, it gets that out there where people who never would touch cannabis and would judge cannabis users will start using some CBD, and then maybe they'll start using a little like edible in the evening to help them sleep, and then they're not using their sleeping pills anymore. And like, you know, that shit spreads out. And I think it's very hard to ever go back from that again, at least for the next like few generations. There could be future generations that forget and they pull another thing they did 100 years ago. Like, it's always possible. But for the next few generations, it secures that like cannabis is here, it's here to stay. That's, you know, it's only a good thing.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Yeah, I kind of feel you there. I mean, what worries me is, unlike America or Canada, the rigged nature of the UK political system, the British parliamentary system, terrifies me, because the same, frankly, cunts that build this legalized model in the UK will end up with hereditary peership, and they will be in the House of Lords, so that when they've passed this law and they've gone through the, fucking 5-6 checkpoints, where they go through the 3 readings, then they go through the complete of the House of Commons, then they go to the House of Lords twice. And once they've completed all of that shit and they've put this, and the Queen has rubber stamped it, and whoever happens to be Prime Minister at the time puts their John Hancock on it, they'll all inherit those peerships in the House of Lords. So then us trying to reform it in future generations, the first time it hits the House of Lords, boom, tear it apart, never getting through. That is my worry, that because of the level of cronyism, of corruption within politics here in the UK, that if we don't get it right with the first swing, we might not get another swing without an actual revolution. Do you know what I mean? And again, I'm not against the corporatocracy and the creation of all of these monopolistic systems and these international conglomerates. I'm not fully against it. I'll clarify that sentence. I can allow it to live. Again, as I've said before, if we're also given the opportunity that they go, all right, what we're going to do is these guys are going to grow all the plants in the world. They're going to sell this and they're going to take over all the McDonald's and sell all the weed and whatever hyperbole bullshit. But what we're going to do to compensate you guys is just end the war. We're just going to stop it. We're just going to tear up this piece of paper. Go back to what you're just doing. And then they'll still create restrictions of licensing and whatever else. But the individual, that if you want to just grow enough that you can sell to some organization, some entity, some cooperative, or do enough to just step out, check out of the game. I think that's what people see cannabis law. I mean, it's there. It's cannabis justice is class justice. That's what science is up there, because that's what it is to me, is that we can end classism. We can end this predatory system of neoliberalistic capitalism if we use this ultimate renewable resource. It makes batteries, it grows homes, it can replace petroleum. Do you know what I mean? There's so much fucking more to this than just me really enjoying smoking it.
And maybe the way is just to try and unite everyone that's on board with this new or old way of living that's in tune with the earth and the natural elements, and not still do technology. Like, technology is fucking awesome, and it makes our life better and more convenient, and we can achieve some amazing things. But we need, imagine some fucking prime ministers and leaders of countries that were just like us. People just want to make the world a better fucking place and just not fuck it up. Do you know what I mean? Not fuck it up. And so just embrace cannabis, embrace mushrooms. It's time. But I don't want to go down too dark a road. But then I think it's possible to unite and achieve that, but very, very difficult, because I don't have a lot of faith in things like elections, just like the illusion of choice, right? The candidates often that you see from each party that has that gets a good share of votes, no, I wouldn't pick any of them. I'm looking at the same thing here. I'm looking at the same flavor, or a different flavor of the same thing. So it's how do we get someone that it has to be someone kind of completely independent, or a collective, or a group of people that can really unite people and can parry and defend all of the bullshit and the negative propaganda that would come their way as a result of gaining any kind of momentum.
I mean, part of what worries me is it then becomes, eventually the revolution becomes sexy and becomes profitable, and so it becomes astroturfed and it becomes part of the narrative in the same way. Look at
you're right, but it should just be it should be okay, the revolution is just fucking go in your garden and just learn how to grow a bunch of shit, that kind of revolution, learn how to look after yourself with as much reliance.
Radical self-sufficiency. To actually then to make the choice. When you go to a Burger King, you go to whatever, you are doing that because you want that thing, not because it's the cheaper option, not because it's the easier option, not because you are being tricked into it through advertising or marketing gimmicks, or because of you saw it when you were driving past, or whatever else. You know what I mean? To bring people to consciousness. And by that, I mean awareness, to just be able to make informed decisions about what we do, what we participate in, where our data goes. I mean, there's so much different potential realities we could be living in terms of these structures we're operating under. Yet everything is these false binaries, these false fucking dichotomies that have been created to keep us in these binary debates of going, pick a side. And most of us now have gone, but both sides are wrong. And so we just don't participate.
Or just also it's more nuanced as well. But
it can't be. So everything is a spectrum, a bell curve. And by the nature of this, the majority fall to the base of the bell curve in everything. but everything is also fluctuating, whether that be your identity, your in terms of the version you see of yourself, how you feel about yourself, the way you identify yourself, the way you identify others, the relationship you have to other things in terms of food, sex, drugs, work, motivation, anything. All of these things fluctuate, but majority of behavior can be mapped on a bell curve. But it's the extremity of both sides that have been driving the discourse in our society for decades, because that is neoliberalism 101. You find the two extremes, and then you go, you pretend you're going to be left, you pretend you're going to be right. Here's all the money. Go, guys, go, 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 go. And then everybody spends 40 fucking years running around chasing our own asses, going, but they're wrong, but they're wrong. When they're above this, they don't play the game. They don't identify with the left or right. Bill Hicks told you this in the 90s with the puppet and saying that it's the same guy who's pulling the fucking strings. And we know them. You spoke of their names a minute ago, of Vanguard and of BlackRock. This is what I mean about the co-option of the revolution, is as soon as they've gone, right, well, we own all of alcohol, right, move our money from all of alcohol. Do we own olive oil, move all of our money from oil. That was oil, not olive oil. But no, that sounded. And then
Sell olive oil.
But you know what I mean? They've literally gone to any of the resources that will be harmed by this, diversify our investments, go and buy us the space for this. We want a good 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year plan economically. Because again, BlackRock alone has an asset value of $20 trillion. It's got more value, the controls more value than the entire GDP of America, the United States of America. It's fucking insane. And as you said, they own the majority of this, all the pharmaceutical industry. So as you say, now that all these grannies are like, oh, but CBD and I'll use this as a painkiller. And yeah, the reason you're allowed to hear that on the mainstream media platforms that they own and the social media platforms that they own through, again, investment in stock market shares and all the wonderful neoliberalistic mechanisms of diverse control ownership that exists. But they're then changing that narrative now. They're allowing this to exist, but it's not us that are getting to play. It's their boys that they went to school with. Oh, ring up Davey. I haven't seen him in 20 years. Oh, you're an investment banker now, aren't you? Do you want to move some of your money into this? Or do you know Mike? Yeah, he's a lawyer, isn't he? Oh, he's bringing his law firm in. And they're just building this system for them while we're still terrified of the blue light. We're still scared of a gram in our pocket. We're still worried of losing our license, of losing our lives, of have our children taken from us, our jobs removed from us. Our dignity is being stripped from us. We're scared of being strip searched at the side of the road. We have no autonomy. We have no dignity. Yet they are building the future of industry in this fucking country. It's
well said.
Oh,
very well said. And it's not even just that. It's the people. People are getting squeezed more and more and more. And so it's like you don't even have space to think, like, we can have this conversation with people, and it's like, oh, I feel helpless, I feel overwhelmed, there's nothing I can do about it. And fuck, I've been there for long periods of time, and it's a fucking horrible place to be. And that's why currently I'm taking a lot of mushrooms, and that's the fucking real world right there. That allows you to connect the real world. Like, I go for walks in the forest. Just went down there to the ocean, man. Had a skinny dip, just like jumped in, felt like a child, like swimming through the water, butt naked, and it felt fucking amazing. And that's the real world, and we can all go and be part of that anytime we want to be, and that's certainly makes me feel better about things on a day-to-day basis, and to kind of like stay positive and happy, and realize that in itself, and the ripple effect that we can all have, we often don't realize our own power. Just the virtue of looking after yourself in that kind of way, that's helping through like a mycelial type of ripple influence out into the universe to influence others as well. And I don't know, that's my take on it, man.
Yeah, people see that as well, man, and people respond to it, and it resonates through that kind of, what did Rupert Sheldrake call it, morphic resonance. And so it is just this, it's a building of, you get that, what do they call it, the hundreds monkey paradigm is that suggests that about 5%. You get a concept or an idea or a sensation to arrive at about 5% of the population, and then it takes on its own nature. It then becomes fact, it becomes institution, it becomes dogma, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we're at with this psychedelic renaissance right now. in a period of new awakening and awareness to these substances. Yes, there are the corporate fuckers that are then charging $6,000 for ketamine infusions, and now soon, I don't know where it was today, I saw, was it Colorado, are going to be, with federal approval, going to be prescribing MDMA, which looks like quite an interesting proposition. Obviously, they need to get federal approval, which they ain't going to get anytime soon. Unless, of course, GW or Pfizer happens to have an MDMA patent that they've been keeping away somewhere, that they're just going to go, no, FDA, guys, 45% of funding that comes direct from our pockets. We've got this other drug we want pushed through, please. And that will go because of the Veterans Association, because that'll then help the military industrial complex. And it's, again, to go back to kind of, my worry is that the revolution is our ability to connect to nature again. It is to be, as you said, present human, to go, wait, I don't need any of this shit. I could literally go, as you did, skinny dipping into the ocean. I can go fucking wandering into the woods. I can build fire. I can hunt. I can forage. To understand that level of, all right, I can be all right. That gives you an ability to not respond in pure fear, to not respond in that kind of negative, scared, oppositional mindset where everything is the enemy and they're coming to take something from you. Whereas the psychedelic experience allows you to go, fuck them. And then you ground yourself to a moment of then actually you can see alternative solutions, and you can deal with it in a more abstract way, in what I would consider to be a much more humanistic way. But again, we've had our humanity stolen from us, and we're sort of getting it sold back by drip by drip by drip by drip.
True. But this might be our saving grace, because they have the game on lock. They think they can control and profit from the whims and changes of society and culture, which they can't control completely as much as they would like to be able to. And so they, as you say, profit through increased awareness of things like psychedelics. But for how long? That's the thing. Like, once people they start getting out there and using them, it could be the very thing that creates their own demise. Here's hoping.
And I think the smart ones in their groups will know this. That's why they're charging so fucking much, and they're working so hard. They just make hay while the sunshine, lads. Eventually, it's going to piss it down, and I think that is what's happening now. Capitalists are going to capitalize. That's capitalism, folks. You know what I mean? I don't blame the piranhas for being piranhas, but you know what? I'm not going to put my fucking feet in piranha-infested water. The frog and the scorpion sort of metaphor comes to mind here, not metaphor, adage. No, what's the word? Fable? I think fable's probably the closest way to describe that.
I'll take any of them.
Yeah, you know what I mean. That's close enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. But again, I don't mind them necessarily doing that. If we can go, well, can we play as well? Can we, mammy government, can we play? Yeah. Why are the big boys playing? Dave's got the football and they're on the pitch and we want to play football too. Why can't we play? We've got our ball. We just need some pitch. Let us, there's 2 pitches. Let us play on the other pitch. There's more than enough space. We've got the ball. Yeah. In most cases. We want to go and do this. We're dying, literally. There are kids in this country dying, and I mean that from the ones that are dying from access to treatment to the ones being stabbed and shot to the people being chopped the fuck up over crops. What are you going to get? 20 grand at tops? And you're going to fucking go and cut a man in fucking half? There's people torturing people in this country, cutting off fucking fingers and toes. Sorry to be graphic at whatever time you listen to this, folks. But there's some horrible shit going down over, again, a commodity that, if done right, should be worth fuck all. Cannabis should be so ubiquitous that actually the only cannabis that costs a lot of fucking money is the best of the fucking best. And that will cost that much because it deserves to cost that much, but it shouldn't cost the most. Next thing you know, got to mortgage your house to get it. It should be about where the market is now. But you should be able, if you can buy a gram of tobacco for 30 grams in this country for, it's been a while since I bought tobacco, I think 15 to 17 pounds for 30 grams compared to 200 pounds for 28 grams of cannabis.
Yeah, most of that's tax anyway. But it's the one thing that should be fought for in the UK and in any country legalizing it is definitely the right to grow your own supply. Again, that's a big portion of what we have here in Canada, or in most of the provinces. I think Saskatchewan might be kind of like a little bit of a weird one, very conservative. But here I can grow 4 plants. They can't be within public view. So, you know, indoor, outdoor, if it's in the back of your garden, fenced, whatever.
So can your neighbours see it though? So can your neighbours look out of their garden into your garden? Because that's not in public.
My neighbours
from their private land into your private land.
Yeah. I think they can. I think that's okay.
Any restrictions on height or vegetative state or anything like that?
That is a good question, Simpa. I'm not sure. I know there is an amount that you are allowed to have in your household. There's like a limit to that. It's quite a large amount. Well, not huge, but like it's fairly large for like it's a casual grower. I was
going to say it's got to be pretty high because I mean, I'm not bragging here, but I think I could do pretty well of just 4 plants subtly illegally in a small space, and historically have done. But to then know I could do it outside, knowing that I could prepare for the summer, you know, veg cycle for fucking 20 weeks if I wanted to, really prep them root bound, you know, put them in 1,000-litre pots or whatever. I'm being a bit hyperbole here, but you know what I'm saying? You could go silly. So then why then should you be punished if you're a good grower? That's the one thing that's always bothered me about the limitations. It shouldn't be that, well, they come out and go, how have you got all this weed? Well, he went, I did it well. I don't know. Yeah. Why punish me? I've done a good thing, surely. What's the problem here? This means I don't have to grow as many plants next time, or like, it's one of the things that I appreciate about what Thailand has been trying to do, is trying to get government to buy back from citizens. So obviously they gave away like 1 million so-called hemp low THC cannabis plants at the start of the month. And they're looking to then find people and champions that they can then buy back, as long as it goes through certain certifications, that can then be sold through their prescription systems.
Wow, that's cool.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because I mean, looking at the supply here in the UK, as you said, the rejected stuff and the quite poor quality shit that's coming out of the Canadian markets, the Australian market, the Israeli market, that isn't like top shelf for their markets, basically. There are kids in bedrooms, first and second grow, that I've seen pull off far better crops, far better crops. I'm almost at the point of laughing here, because I kind of need to, because it's embarrassing when you really think of the fucking money these facilities are putting down, when they're talking, oh, we're 25 million investment to this, and this million to this, and this to this, and this to this. And you look at the weed that comes out of it. I mean, I've spent enough time in hydro shops in the UK, and you hear the lads, they'll joke sometimes, and they'll see this kid comes in every week and he buys a different fucking nutrient. So he's never stuck with anything. He's never actually, and there are these kind of growers that think they know everything, and all they do is throw money into it, and they never actually go, wait a minute, let's learn one thing at a time and move forward. Yeah. You know what I mean? But they're doing this on a large scale where they're losing fucking billions. I think of MedMen's first attempt, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man, there's been a lot of money thrown around and wasted for sure. But at the end of the day, what's going to be a better product? A small, intimate grow of a few plants that get hand watered. Each plant gets inspected and tended to individually, about someone who cares, not about yield or profit, but just about growing the best possible product, versus a, investor-driven, scaled facility of huge amounts of plants, just like generic people that don't really know what they're doing in there. And oh man, I met someone in I guess I'm going to be really vague about this. I met someone in town that was working at a shop, and they had been the quality assurance person for Tilray. And Tilray, a big pharmaceutical, I think they may have sold into like another company, kind of, or been taken over or something like that. But they were
merged kind of like with Aferia to become new Tilray. Oh, it's still Tilray, but it's the last time when I was looking at the investment documents, it was bracketed as new Tilray. So the new company is Tilray, but it's embodied with this Aferia. I think it was Aferia, or it began with an A. It was one of those companies. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
I see. So as part of that, they had a big facility here in Nanaimo, and that facility got closed down. I guess that's why she wasn't working there anymore. But I was just chatting to her, and she was kind of saying, yeah, like there was just like always mold and insects and things like that. She's like, that's just how cannabis is. Like you just like always, it's like you hardly ever not get it on there. And I was just like, oh, what?
You poor people, like, again. But this is what I've really calmed down. Anyone will notice, obviously, even now we're episode 84 with this. Generally, in my activism, if you've watched me over the years, I'm really starting to understand people's just people's, and people's can get it wrong. They believe they're doing the best that they can. And that person probably in their head genuinely believe, no, that's the truth. Everyone I've talked to and all of their experience. Because if you don't know something, you don't know it. And if you don't know, then it's kind of not your fault. It's kind of not your fault, you know?
It's not a failing on her part, absolutely not. And lovely person as well. So, you're absolutely right. But it's a failing on the company, man. Like
an indictment of something to that scale.
How many skillful growers are there on Vancouver Island that have been growing fire for decades? Like where are these guys?
Their first...
Where was the effort made to bring them over? There was none. It was like held at arm's length, and that's a sad thing. That's a sad thing.
Yeah.
But it also just perpetuates the black market as well. So it's just like they're leaving more money on the table. The black market's still going strong here.
It's gonna forever. And if you leave the best people and the products that the consumers want outside of the remit of the line you've drawn, guess what? You're the one that's fucking wrong because you drew the line in the wrong place. What you should have done is go, all right, we're going to legalize cannabis in Canada. Right, we're going to do a consultation period. What is cannabis? Because we don't fucking know. How do you use it? How much do you use on average? And taking all of this data in and built the law to the culture rather than just arbitrarily pull these numbers out of their fucking arse, go to venture capitalist firms, bring in all of this fucking money and set up a system that everyone's just kind of 10% of in THC in an edible. I'm sorry. And even if you're in novice, and everyone is horses for courses and whatever else, but the majority of people, I suppose, granted from the culture that I come from, if you want to eat an edible, you're doing it to get fucked up. If you wanted to microdose, you'd use oils and tinctures and other sort of different things. If you can have your edible, you can have your fucking edible.
So I don't know, that's changed now. That's changed in the legal, just by virtue of me being in the legal space. Like I came out here, man, and obviously I was doing some activism stuff in the UK, and it's all black market in the UK, unless you're the government or friends and family. So out here, I was just so excited to be part of legal and experiencing it and whatnot. But it's kind of been at the cost of not being immersed as much into like the culture side of it. But that's an element that I'm very much like getting back into now and starting to discover and like meet all of these awesome people. So like that's a great thing. But some of the LPs are starting to get it now as well, and you've got a lot of like craft producers, which is awesome. There's actually some really nice cannabis coming through now. I'll be honest, like up until this point, I'm pretty picky with cannabis, I suppose it's fair to say, but I'd say like 80% of the flower products on the market are kind of like substandard, overpriced, and then the other 20% are really nice, but are often like a little bit kind of overpriced as to what we really want to be paying at the end of the day. No fault again for the producers, because they're still like not making that much money off of it with the way that the things are set up. But it's interesting, you've got a company called Bazam here, and they're quite like a big, they've got a lot of money bankrolled from a foreign investor, and they have some of their stuff hasn't been that great, to be honest. But what they've done now is they've hired a guy on the island who has a lot of experience growing. It's called Fresh Cannabis, and like the stuff they're putting out through that is absolute fire. And so like they're starting to get it, and I think allegedly they basically, the deal is that like that guy has full control over like what's being grown and how it's been grown. Like it's his operation, and then they just sell the product and do the rest. And that's how it's got to be. You can't interfere with the growers' process when there's masters at work.
Exactly that. We need the business folk and the guys with the degrees that went to the school, and you understand the economics and you can do the spreadsheets and the rest of it. I'm not meaning to trivialize. I'm just simplifying. But you also then need the guys that know the the industry that have been fucking clandestinely growing for 30, 40 years that understand how to make it fucking quiet when there's fucking 20 people the other side of a wall, but you're growing 100 grand worth of fucking weed, how to keep the smell down, how to keep the pests out, how to, run procedures, create protocols, wire electrics, understand fire potential risks, and all of these other myriad of things that you can only learn through it fucking you over. So you actively having to go, shit, right, next time, lads, what can we do? And it starts with, a bit of gaffer tape, and then you learn and you go to the back of the drawing board. And from that, all of the great advancements within the technology for growing cannabis, that's where they came from clandestine growers of people terrified that if this tank breaks, it floods and goes through the floor downstairs, we're raided, it's over. All of that, and though that needs to be recompensed, it needs to be compensated, it needs to be paid for. They did this to win and forge a future for them and for their families and their friends and their community and their culture, ourselves included. And anything that doesn't honor that and create a space for that is a slap in their face. That the ultimate act of activism, I would say now, whether you're in a legal or illegal area, is to vote with your dollar, is to support the companies and the industries and the organizations within whatever sector it is that you're looking at that represents everyone, that represents fairness, the end of the war, that represents a hope for a better post-prohibition paradigm than the one we currently live under. Because as far as I see,
holding the companies accountable, and just like voting with your wallet on the companies that are keeping it real. Like these guys are a good example. Coast Mountain Cannabis, I was really impressed with their facility. Living soil beds. Their soil beds are over 2 years old. Like they compost like the waste bits of the plant, and they just feed. It's the first time like I've gone to, usually you go and, like you say, with the nutrients, the companies are using various different like formulated nutrients and whatnot. Like they have obviously all organic, and they just like they have big tanks of like compost tea that they just like brew up and then like hand water and go around. And the master growers guys, those guys have got experience with plant medicines. Like they've lived interesting lives, and all of the love and the experience just like goes into the plants, and clean product, and a cool company. And those are the kind of companies that I like to support out here.
Do I take the lion and the flag to suggest that they are Rastafarian?
There is certainly some influence from that. I think, I think Elliot, the master grower, was like dabbled around that a little bit. I actually interviewed him on the Grove Street Journal podcast. So him and Damien, two of the three like head growers there. So yeah, he did. He had very long dreads, but they were cut off. I think he cut them off last year. It was cool to see the pictures of him with the dreads after like only meeting him, but with shorter hair. But they're beautiful, beautiful souls. Like they were so welcoming and so like inviting and so open to talk about everything as well. That that was a good experience. And it's in Pemberton. It's kind of near Whistler, so just amazing mountains is the backdrop. Small little town, just beauty, natural beauty everywhere. It's a nice kind of like slow, community-oriented family pace of life. They invited Elliot's brother. Was having like kind of gathering there for one of the family members' birthdays. So they actually invited us over to go there and have some food with them and see their homestead kind of set up that they had. And his brother had just grown all of these. He had like a kind of greenhouse, and he built this automated water heating, like underfloor, like water heating system for his plants. It was like on a thermostat sensor, so it drops below a certain level. It had like a heat pump, and it pumps hot water along all of these like little plumbing tubes under the plants and whatnot. And I love to see that stuff. We were talking about that like self-sufficiency earlier, and it's very inspiring seeing these people just build all of this stuff and do it themselves.
Again, to have the opportunity to do that is all I want to see. My issue with that is the way Canada has obviously did it with the first store. It is handful of who's the ones we want to get through, or you guys go first. You got a couple of your head start. Go. Here's all the money. Here's all the stuff. Here's everything. Go. Wait a minute. We'll get you. Wait a minute. And it's what everyone else has done. It's the same damn thing. Is they're letting their mates through and they're letting them establish the systems. And so, yeah, we're getting to participate and play, but how long for is what worries me. Is that because again, neoliberalistic capitalism is a blood sport, and you keep ultimately the game is to be the guy that owns both the Coke companies, both the lemonade companies, both the tomato ketchup companies, and you create the marketing and the gimmick and go, oh yeah, they're so different, this ketchup from this ketchup, and you're the guy that makes the fucking, you grow the tomatoes, so you laughing, that's what it's going to be with weed. We have to remember that is their end goal. So yeah, you may get 2 years, 5 years, whatever, but we have to be mindful globally, collectively. That's what I want to see from regions around the world, is just start having these conversations internationally. Because do you not think that these guys are? Do you think that they respect borders and arbitrary lines and passports and all the rest of this shit? No, they are working on ways to con us. The reason they are in Zimbabwe, the reason they are in Chile, the reason they are exploiting and moving around the world is they are looking for the cheapest labor. They are trying to get the cheapest gram, because once they've found the cheapest gram and the cheapest production, it doesn't matter if they've got to then send it 25,000 miles around the world for you to get it on prescription. That's the model they want. That's the end goal of BlackRock, Vanguard. And for us to defend against that is to, in some which way, become the Vanguard and take on this mantle and conglomerate internationally as activists, as advocates, as people that can just see the inevitable thing that's going to happen and collectively fight for the UN to go, all right, we got it wrong. We got it really fucking wrong. We're going to tear up these two conventions and we're going to write a lovely new convention enshrining your human rights to take drugs. Part of that is your inalienable right to produce your own, create your own societies, as part of your human right to self-expression, to identity, and towards socialization and right to work and all these other human rights. As part of that would come in cannabis, in drugs, in what, do you know what I mean? And I think that would be nice. I feel like it's going the other way though. Yeah, but that's because it's all collective effort and will. And you think I look around the world and I think, man, illicit drug trade is worth somewhere between 350 to probably about 500 billion, depending on how good of a year it's been. That's a fucking lot of money. That lobbying, that working in politics, that working in certain systems and actually pushing for, I know that obviously that money wouldn't, because the end of the war on drugs would be the end of that money, but it would also be the creation of a much better world for everybody. Like you would just take the bottom off. All it would do is get rid of the suffering. You just can still be stupidly rich. If you want your Lamborghini and your gold Bugatti and whatever other bullshit, you can have it, but it's not predicated on the suffering, misery, and perpetual indebted servitude of millions, potentially billions of people. Well, what's fucked as well is there's still 500,000 prisoners of cannabis here in Canada today. 500,000. Canada's only got a population of like 32 million, hasn't it? That's a good question. I'm not sure. It's pretty sparse for the land area. That sounds about right. That's about less than half of the UK. It was Afaria I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. APHRIA was the company. Afaria, I know Afaria. They have a bunch of like brands like in the recreational space. Oh yeah, I was trying to get too PHE with it, but yeah, they're the ones who merged with Tilray. Which actually, I remember seeing that now, like a few months ago. Because that actually happened because originally Tilray and Aurora were going to merge, and that fell through. 38 million. Yeah, I was a little bit off. 38 million. But yeah, still like that should be zero. So it just kind of goes to show you really they're not like haven't gone full in. Yeah, So that is basically the reason I wanted to do that. I was saying that's 1 in 64 people in Canada is in prison for cannabis, yet cannabis is legal in Canada. Yeah, we shared a video actually. I don't mean to laugh. Sorry, I'm laughing because otherwise I'd fucking cry. This is a lovely room and I don't want to break anything. So sometimes you gotta laugh, man, or just have a good cry at a later date. Just fucking let it all flow through. But yeah, it's sad.
We shared a video through the Different Collective Instagram from like an amnesty organization in Canada. They're a great like charity to check out. They're doing some good work around this and like trying to raise awareness about it as well. Because I wasn't aware it was that high a number. It's crazy, and like we're all in the cannabis industry and like working in it and profiting from it and enjoying it. So it's like it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, man. And again, you talked about before about these growers and from Tilray and whoever, like what anyone that knew anything, their first thing should have been, all right, let's ring up the local prison. All right, who have you got for growing weed? All right, ask them who grew the most. How much to get caught for? Fuck it, we'll have that guy. We'll have that guy. Get that guy. We want that guy. It should be like drafts, you know, like they're doing like wrestling or football in America, and it's like the draft of the season. That's what it should be when a country legalizes weed. It should literally be all of a sudden everyone that's like, oh, get in. I've got 2 million on my record. You know what I mean? And you get suited and booted, and there'll be that night ready for the day that it legalizes. These are the all-stars. These are the motherfuckers you want in play. These are the guys that are going to get it right the first crop. It ain't going to take 10 cycles. You're not going to lose. Again, it's not even a loss. They make it look like that, oh, we lost 10 billion in our stock and value, but we're now worth 20. Nah, it means you pocketed that shit. You conned and played the system. You pumped and dumped. You played the market. It's not never a failure. It's all part of the plan. Whereas if you had these guys in, they would understand it. Whenever the board would then go, we're going to do this, the grower would be like, why the fuck are you going to do that? That's not good for the plant. It's not good for the consumer. Why would you cut that corner? Why would you want that PGR in that product? Why would you use a fast dry technique that increases molds and pests, that increases the mold rate and increases the likelihood of pests being present in the product? Why would you then use concentrations on products that you know have failed certain pesticide tests and whatever else, knowing it's going to maximize a product, but it won't be tested in the same way? Like, they wouldn't allow this. True cannabis people wouldn't allow this. They just fucking wouldn't. No. Sorry, like if you had decency, or they'd kind of be like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this. You'd object where you can, and you'd walk the fuck away. And in the right world, you'd be allowed to establish a community and an industry and a profitable alternative that would put that fucker out of business. Best business practice doesn't mean about legality. I know some criminal entrepreneur dealers right now whose morality and their corporate social governance score and all the rest of it will be off the fucking scale, because they are decent motherfuckers that do good for the world every day. They don't steal their electric. They pay their way. You know, they share genetics. They're paying to charities. You know, they pay their growers well. They pay their trim as well. You know, it goes to their vendors. They're looked after. There's education. The wealth is shared. Why the hell are we not celebrating? Why are they not on the cover of Forbes? Why are they not celebrated? Why is there some prick with a Rolex that costs more than the majority of people's fucking house and yearly income combined? It's mind-boggling. The symbology here and the imagery and the messaging to the youth must just be fucking mental. I can't imagine growing up now as an 18, 19-year-old getting exposed to cannabis. Like, at least when I
don't know. It's pretty chill here in Canada because it's legal. I feel like it's, you know, they have people coming in.
But that's
like,
the problem. You know, they're chill. So they're not, they're going to breed. That's what I'm saying. They're breeding it out of us. I know I've been accused of being angry at times, but we need to be able to go, okay, this is a good start. Let's do better and hold them to account and constantly be charging forward. But I don't see those movements. And obviously, I'm not intimately involved in foreign industries, but I worry that they're breeding apathy and brand awareness. That all of a sudden you'll go, I remember Tilray from when I was a youngin'. So you'll consume Tilray till the day you die. They'll use the traditional neoliberalistic marketing and advertising gimmicks and everything else to just get us addicted to their brand and going, oh yeah, they're very pro LGBTQ plus. I'll adopt that and support them. Or they're doing this, so I'll support. Yeah. I like that actor in that advert, and we'll lose that. Well, no, but what's the cannabis? Where's the cannabis? Are they actively trying to get people out of prison? This one in, what is it, 66 people? I can't remember the math, and I think it was 38, which, yeah, 60, no, 70.
That seems like a crazy high percent, but I guess a lot of people do grow cannabis in Canada. Oh, gee, that seems high. Yeah, that's wild. But I think that I think the culture will always continue. There'll always be people passionate to bring the torch forward. And they can maybe coexist, because there's people that will use cannabis on a regular basis that really don't give a shit about the plant. There's loads of things I consume on a daily basis that I don't fucking care about. Like beer, for example, not daily, but when I drink that, I don't really fucking care. Just I have a beer that I like, and I stick to it.
But you don't have to care, because then we know that with the production and the standardization and the creation of alcohol and its regulation, you don't have to worry. You know that you're going to get, if you've bought that beer is going to be what it says on the packet, because enough people have suffered and fought for the standardization of that industry. Whereas cannabis right now, you're buying whatever that budtender, I don't want to say tricked, but or talked or convinced. I'm trying to use very friendly language here, and I don't mean this to sound sharp.
What have they recommended?
Thank you. Whatever's being recommended, and you don't know if that's a genuine, passionate thing that the person's done, or if they're upselling you, or if they're just.
No, but oil is a good example, like edibles. People that don't smoke cannabis is usually the distinction, right? Like they're going to go in, they don't care about the strain or anything like that. They're going to just find one that works for them for what they want to use it for. And they're just going to go on, live the rest of their life. That's fine. It'd be probably the more corporate companies selling them that. That's fine. But what we do have is a strong craft, community, and the people that are more into the cannabis and more in the refined experiences and the high grade, those people are definitely interested and involved, and they want to know who the grower is. And we're starting to get a lot more companies put more information on the packaging of the product now. So it'll tell you how it was grown, how long it was cured for, what the genetic lineage is, what the terpene profile is, terpene content. Sometimes they're posting the minor cannabinoids as well as the THC and CBD. So we are seeing that side of it, which is good. And there's also a good home growers. I actually just interviewed the head of the Vancouver Island Home Growers Guild, and he's an awesome dude. He's been growing for decades. Gave us some of his mama's weed. We smoked some of his mama's weed. That was fucking amazing shit, so nice and chilled. And he's running a cup, and the cup's going to be all homegrown. People send in the samples. They're going to be using a grading system that we've developed to go through and do it all kind of objectively. And this is amazing kind of culture thing that kind of I'm excited for, and it's allowed because people are allowed to grow at home, but also here there's a lot of people with the legacy medicinal licenses, it says ACNPR, a license. So some people have these licenses that allow them to grow hundreds of plants as well. So there's this kind of community around that as well. So I think all of those entities can coexist. But to your point, I do worry as well that people don't appreciate the history and the pain and the decades of people's thankless work to move the needle on this to get to where we are today. And just my worry of that is that we've let the perpetrators of these crimes against humanity get off scot-free, and in many cases are the ones in the best position to be profiting from this new world. So it's if we haven't learned anything from that, or we don't at least have our guard up against these institutions and organizations, then how many other things are we going to walk into completely clueless for another 20, 30, 40 years? Our entire lives, we may think it's clueless. How many things are we currently in from these orchestrated from these people that we're clueless of? So that's my big concern, is we've just allowed it to slip in without having that more difficult conversation around why it's been so much to get it to this point in the first place.
Yeah, and as you said, the majority they're in the position to profit most from it now. But I say worse is that they, through a form of, I guess, gentrification and erasure and whitewashing, get to write the history of cannabis. It's not about the 500,000 people in Canada, in prison for cannabis offences. It's not about the 50,000 people serving stupid sentences. I can't remember the minimum sentence of the 50,000 quote for in America. I think it's life for non-violent or something like that. No, it's not 50,000, there's 50, sorry, there's 50 in America that's serving life for non-violent cannabis offences. Yet America is held as this bastion of cannabis freedom. There's so many wrongs with the way these systems have been established, and it is not only have they got off scot-free, it's that they've stopped punching us in the face effectively. The playground bully that have been, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? And now they're suddenly, I don't know, like sold us boxing gloves or some shit. It's just, they're still hitting us in the face, but it's softer now. And it's all right, we can do this. Yeah. It's
death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. It's like, and we can't tell the difference because they're being nice. It's lovely. It's so soft, isn't it? Thank you for the punch. Yeah. It's like, well, wait. No, when we had the conversation about being punched in the face was the moment we should have said, no, we don't want to be punched in the face. We don't want to change how we're punched in the face. And that's what it feels like all these conversations with legalization is we're not there. It's the conversation to me, I appreciate what is happening in America at the minute if they're talking about descheduling, because that's where the end is. If you leave it scheduled, you will always have problems where people fall out of the gray area and into criminality, where you can go, well, he had it in the wrong part of his car. Oh, well, you're going down, son. You know what I mean? The laws are so arbitrary in some regions. I mean, Canada, I often use as the main quote, is that it went from 7 laws to 45 laws overnight. So it didn't get more, it got less legal, paradoxically. But everyone's kind of like, well, yeah, that's fine. And it's like, well, but is it? But really? And then, like I said before, this apathy that's bred into us of going, I've got my 4 plants at home, and yeah, and this is not to shit on anybody that's building industry and community. I applaud everything that you spoke of. You know, I did the same when I spoke with Urban Remo, another sort of Canadian hero. And I just called you a Canadian hero by proxy. Didn't mean that, but you know what I mean. Not that you're not a hero, but you're not Canadian. You know what I mean. I'm
neither, mate. I'm just fucking English blokes smoking a lot of weed in Canada.
Yeah, you're a hero to me because you actually got up and fucking went to Canada, and you did it just prior to effectively the end of the world, and you stayed there during lockdown. That's pretty fucking heroic, brother, because I fucking wouldn't have. Saying that you didn't have a choice, did you? There wasn't much choice involved,
not much choice. No, fuck. It escalated quickly, man. I came for like the liberal, open attitudes, and unfortunately, at the same time, I want to say I don't feel that is an indicative representation of Canadians who are, lovely, amazing people on the whole. So, I fucking love it in this country. I love BC. I love Vancouver Island. I love the beauty of it, the closeness to nature. The similarities of being in a similar climate to home. I don't want to live anywhere else, but it's been an interesting few years as well. So I have to see what way. Got my ear to the wall to see what happens. But looking forward to coming back to the UK soon. Hopefully in the next couple months or so. That'd be nice to get back and see some homies.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'd love to get out to Canada again soon. So you definitely on my list to make sure we could visit. Again, yeah, I've stated that the Canadians I found to be entirely lovely. I only spent a small amount of time in around Toronto on my way back from my American road trip in 2018. But literally every single person I interacted with was just lovely, refreshingly so. It was like meeting Northerners. That's a good expression. A good measure of their decency.
I like that. Yeah, just like a bit kind of I don't know,
just open, more
polite, like than a Northerner, because I not like Northerners are amazing. My dad's a Geordie, by the way. I fucking love the North. But it's more like
Northerners
like you just speak your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Canadians are very polite.
Yeah, no, I get it. I see.
But the spirit, they share the same spirit of like adventure and a lot of like acceptingness. I think in most cases,
the intrinsic liberalness. I mean, if you look at what's happening with sort of drug trials of criminalization, you look obviously what's happening around entheogenic compounds or psychedelics. these movements are happening, but again, what worries me is that they're happening within a vacuum of a loss of other freedoms and power. And it's kind of like, are we being given one thing and then they take the other things away? And then by the time we get bored with playing with our mushrooms, we look around and they're like, didn't I have a house? What's a car? I used to have a car. The thing with the wheel and driving. I used to drive. I'm telling you, I used to drive. It feels like they're just distracted us away, and we're going to go play with cannabis and go 10 years of yes, look at this industry, everything's mint. And we didn't pay any attention to anything else.
They'll wait till everyone's bankrupt and then legalize everything. Be like, here you go, like everything's
everything, but you can't afford it.
And then they step in as the heroes and be like, well, we're going to give you a universal basic income.
Universal basic opioids.
We'll give you food. We'll give you drugs. We'll tell you what to do, and you don't have to worry about it. Anything. Just come into our system.
Do you know what's scary, right? Here's a good one for your literary minds out there, people. We were so worried about 1984 that we literally built the Brave New World. There is this chemical escapism, and this everything that we just, and it's hedonistic, and it is this self-grandiose and like just egoism. Sorry, like, and it's so hyper-normalized that again, this is why mushrooms are important. Nature is massively important. Go fucking be humbled. Go get lost in the woods. Go get actually lost and realize how fucking insignificant and small you are compared to the vastness of those what you would consider to be banal trees. Go feel the viciousness of nature, the power of it, and respect that shit and learn your position in reality. And yeah, that I think is the underlying.
And the harmony of nature though as well. Like, walk through the forest and just observe how everything is interplaying with each other in this beautifully complex orchestra of insects and plants and trees and birds and mushrooms. Like it's fucking wonderful, man. And like dead shit decomposing and new shit growing out of it. And like, no matter how fucked up the world gets, like that shit will just, it will continue. And we can learn everything we need to from nature as well. So like, it's just radically all fucking become citizen scientists, have fun learning and like supporting each other through that learning process, and become more self-sufficient in the process, and open ourselves up to the fact that we fucking know nothing in this crazy place. We know jack shit, but we're magical, awesome beings as well. So, it reminds me, we went to the cinema a couple of days ago and watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. We took some shrooms before we went in, and it's a mind-blowing movie. Like half the shrooms, but half just an incredible movie. I recommend to go see it. Or find a place to watch it, because the messages that it carries through are very, very poignant. Essentially just like try to be kind, especially when you're uncertain about things. Like that's when you should be kind even more, where we have a tendency to like close ourselves, be defensive, aggressive or whatever. So that was really nice, man. It was a nice trip to do mushrooms on. And I think I got the opportunity to do some Cambo next month as well. So I've never had that experience before. It's an indigenous practitioner, and I've known of Cambo for a little while and just haven't kind of had the opportunity to do it. And then I kind of felt the call when I had a recommendation from someone that knows of it. So I'm kind of excited to try that for the first time.
Nice. It's one of those things that the dot things, I'm needle phobic, so it's always kind of a thing that's made us like, I don't like, it's not medical.
I don't think it's a needle. I'm not too well versed on this, but I think they kind of like burn the skin somewhere, usually like around the shoulder, and then the Cambo is like a toad venom, right? So they just like apply.
Get a tap, sort of. They use different techniques, but you can the same people where they use almost like chopstick sort of thing, and you tapping it, put it in, you knock it in, sort of thing. And it's just that's what it's, I can smoke it. I'm gonna smoke it. That's main drugs. Pretty good history of that. You know what I mean? If I can snort it, I'm gonna snort it. Good history of that. I ain't never put anything in like in a different way. So it's that kind of thing. Is that it feels I'm surrendered. To me, it's I guess it's a trust thing. It's everything's a dose. You know, if I'm going to take acid and use a dropper, I trust myself not to let the whole thing or to make the decision. I'm going to take the whole fucking thing, but it's my fucking choice. Whereas then surrender to somebody else to put me into, I guess, that altered and potentially vulnerable state. I guess that's probably where more of my hesitance, I guess, comes.
I mean, but well, that's no different from any kind of retreat, right? Like an ayahuasca retreat, mushroom retreat. Like you're still entirely placing yourself in the hands of the facilitators of that experience. No matter whether you drink it, smoke it, whatever, like it's gonna alter your mind and your consciousness in ways that you can't even know. You know what's going to happen or how it's going to go. So I don't feel it's any different from that, and probably less so, in fact, because I don't think it's necessarily like a psychedelic, psychoactive experience necessarily, and more of like just the fucking purging, basically. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but fuck, I'm down. It's been used like by the indigenous thousands of years. Like I know a lot of people that have tried it and said it was great and very cleansing. So yeah, I'm down to give it a try.
Nice. Yeah, should always be open to new experiences. So yeah.
Exactly. I'll report back to you.
Yeah, please do. Be curious to know. I'm quite mindful of time because obviously anyone that's aware, we're on opposite ends of the earth right now, and it is midnight. So I'm going to ask a few more questions and then round up because I've got to be out the door at 7 a.m.
I apologize. That's my bad for keeping you waiting there, my friend.
My diary management has been abysmal since I've moved back into this place. So y'all at home, please do like, share, and subscribe because I've actually put fucking effort in to make sure we get this episode out this week for you fine folk. But yes, there's a couple of things that I found when I was out Googling. I do use other social search engines at times, but I actually used Google in this instance. And it came up with an interesting link with a rap that you produced about cannabis. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Oh dear, you found that, did you?
Yeah, people are going to forget when the internet is forever. Where we've done it, it's out there. And if it's out there, I'm probably going to find it if you're going to be a guest on the show for future guests. Remember that.
I respect the research. Yeah, the cannabis rap in the UK. I've always had fun making music. Since I was a kid, played drums, had a little 4-track multi-track recorder, used to like record 4 tracks in on my keyboard, go and take the SD card to my computer, make those 4 tracks into one, and then add more, I think up to like 32 tracks. So I love that shit. And so I've always liked making music. In the last few years, I've been making electronic music. And so I have a big library of projects, music. Sometimes I release it like on SoundCloud, but mostly just for the enjoyment of it. And I decided to write a little rap. Sometimes I write lyrics and things like that. It's kind of like a form of poetry, but I get the chance to kind of like sing, do a little bit of rapping over some of my tunes, and it's just like a really cathartic experience. It's kind of like a mixture of like journaling, therapy, and like a creative environment. So I really enjoy that. And I just got really fired up one day and I wrote a rap about cannabis in the UK and why it's a travesty and why it needs to be legalized. That was good fun. But actually, I just released a music video. You can go check it out on the Different Collective channel, or you can search it on YouTube. You like Circa, CIRCA, and the song's called Sometimes. It's got some Terence McKenna quotes in it, and like we made a music video for it. I'm making the beats, and my boy Etan, he's also working in the cannabis industry. Met him through the Different Collective network, which is why this like collective's fucking awesome, because we connected, realized we're both into music. He likes to rap, I like to make the beats, so I send him some stuff. We worked on some stuff like just virtually over the last couple of months, and we put out this song, and it's been fucking great fun, man. Go check it out, let me know what you think.
Awesome. I'll include links to that and to your UK cannabis rap in the links and bio section below, folks. Yeah, I suppose there's only really one other kind of key. Actually, there's two other questions I've got here. Any thoughts on a BC/Canada film festival? Have you some of your prowess from your previous life at London Cannabis Film Festival? Have you thought of pushing that? Because I know Canada's a bit on advertising and whatever else from the companies themselves, but I thought with the niche that people like yourselves are starting to fill within the industry, surely there is big scope for domestically produced media.
Oh man, I would love to do that. So yeah, I would never write that out. I think it would be prime to do a film festival here. It's been busy right now. I know the other guys, like, still keep in touch with them. Connor and Mark from the film festival. They're both got projects on as well in the UK. I've been busy getting some stuff set up here in Canada. I do believe, and I hope at the right time for us, and hopefully, get other people involved as well. The more, the merrier, and like make it a team, community-driven effort. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do something out here, and then maybe try and get a big UK contingent to come out and share learnings between Canada and the UK, and show some UK film stuff, and show some Canada stuff, and we can all have an experience out here as well with legal cannabis, and be able to smoke freely and enjoy that side of it as well. So no, I'd love to see that happen at some time in the future. Maybe once we get consumption spaces in Canada as well, like that's when things will really start to pop, and these kind of events we could really be talking about that at a good scale.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it could be a wonderful way to document, to solidify the journey so that it doesn't get lost. So that whitewashing and gentrifying that we spoke of before, the erasure of the actual heritage and history, doesn't occur, because it is solidified in a digital time capsule. But it is also a way then to partner with and find the best, the good in Canada, the Canadian industry. Pardon, I've got a bubble in my throat there. In the Canadian industry, and then using that money in those documentaries, that media, to then bring it to the UK as well, and to go, well, look here, and challenge those stereotypes, challenge those negatives, challenge those negative perceptions and those ignorant prohibitionist, traditionalist attitudes, by directly showing it, rather than just cherry picking and go, oh, well, here, we'll show you this one documentary because it actually frames really well for this one policy that we want that'll make us rich. But bring it all, actually, the good, the bad, the ugly, and really, educate and inform people, because it's not just the UK, it's the world that would take this on, that would want this, that would need, like I said, because Canada, unlike America, it's a federal model. For all, you have your 10 provinces and 3 territories. I learned that today. I'm learning a lot about Canada recently. There you go. I will pass a national test at this point easier than I will our own in this country, because fuck me, that looks hard. Jesus Christ. Especially as an anti-royalist, you know what I mean? I deliberately don't want to know that information. So yeah, I might end up over there sooner than later by the looks of it. But yeah, my point is that is then still one standard model overall. And therefore, it's easier to show the economics of it, the effect of it. Yeah, Canada, as we've discussed today, is probably about 2/3 the size population-wise. Country-wise, fuck me, forever more larger than the UK, and even probably. Oh yeah, yeah.
But what they say is like 100 years in Canada is a very long time, but 100 kilometers is a very short distance. But in the UK, 100 years is a very short amount of time, but 100 kilometers is a long stretch of distance.
I can't even tell you how long 100 kilometers is in miles, because that's the only way I can conceptualize.
I think it must be like, maybe, how many would it be, like 60, 70 miles, or like between 50 and 70 would be a super rough.
I was going to say, I'm only guessing that because of it really fucked with my head when I flew into Canada, and I got in a car and rented a car in at night, and saw 100 on the speed limit sign. I was like, 100 mile an hour, fucking right, Canada rules. Put my foot down and then went, my speedo's broken. What the fuck is this? And I was like, it's kilometers, fuck's sake. It was almost like disheartening thing ever. I thought everywhere was like the autobahns of Germany or some shit. And then I went, Oh wait, this means it's actually slower. It's just bigger.
Most of the highways in 90, which I think is it's less than 70 for sure.
Yeah, it's like 56, 60. So yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not that fast, but it does go up to 110 in some cases as well.
Which is about 80 odd. So yeah.
Depending on where you're driving, not that I would ever, break the law or anything that such. I don't dabble in those matters. But if one were to, there's lots of expansive roads with very little population, long straight roads. Good fun to drive at the speed limit on.
Yes, I agree. It's one of the things I enjoyed was the speed limits of Canada. It's interesting. For one final point, actually, I'm just going to out myself, I suppose, for a piece I'm writing at the minute. I'm doing a comparative piece about how humanity's evolved with driving versus how humanity's evolved with drugs, and just showing that, this was dangerous. Seatbelts, good idea. Safety glass, and the evolution of safety after deaths and the reduction versus how we've dealt with drugs. And so, it's just, I'm going to draw some parallels into that of like fun, and part of it is
interesting.
And part of it is going to be, sorry, go on.
When you first said that, I was like, where the hell are you going with that? That's spot on.
Yeah, it's one of the things that came to us recently, and then I ended up having a really good conversation with the guy who does like a traffic convictions course, and then he ended up giving us loads of statistics. And I'm a bit of a, when someone gets in there and got in there, and I went, oh, fuck this. So I've got like 6 pages of just notes and documents to prove like the driving side of it. And I know most of the drug stuff, and I just want to create these like comparative timelines and just show how this dangerous thing happened and how humanity's response to it made it either far more dangerous or far less dangerous. And actually then now show how the nanny state of driving is making driving in some ways more dangerous, and how that could then affect illegal drugs, and basically go back to the concept of, what you're doing, train the individual, give them the best tools, and trust them. That's what we need in driving. Yeah. That's what we need in drugs.
Don't just shove it in the closet and just close the door and pretend it doesn't exist, because that's dangerous. It's irresponsible. Open the closet, see what's there, measure it, identify it, analyze it, and then use that information to minimize risk and maximize profit for society.
Yeah, it's to ensure that it's their kids I'm saving, frankly. It's when they're giving them a fucking like a 300 horsepower Mercedes at 18, 19, and then no one's having the conversation about, he's been raised on need for speed and whatever. And that kid is going to drive fast. He's going to drive like a lunatic. They're going to be crash cars. We need to have these real conversations in the same way. Those people that are taking the 10 milligram edibles, there's also people that are saving those up and taking 1,000 milligram edibles, and they should be allowed to do that safely. You can't criminalize their behavior and draw these arbitrary lines. There are certain cars and roads that you can drive 150 miles on and not have a problem. With good education, good technology, good awareness, we can make these things safer. We need to stop going, now with driving, we're going back down the criminalization route to try and make it safer, when all that'll do is increase criminal behavior. That's what prohibition does. And with drugs, we're coming the other way of now going, put all these arbitrary restraints on it. And what's that going to do? Again, amplify more deaths. So it's the way I'm going to try and really explore the thing of, again, it's about individual responsibility. It's about informed consent, conscious consumption, conscious driving, as it were, conscious traveling and engagement with this death machine, which is what it potentially can be, in the same way that drugs can be, the passport to the angels, as some of the prohibitionists used to say. It can be all these things, but through education, informed choice, regulated supply. Nobody wants to really die off this, whether it be driving a car fast or taking heroin. Do you know what I mean? If you give them the safest tools, they won't.
Or just buying some cocaine that's laced with fentanyl, and boom, you're fucking dead. It's just like a casual evening of recreational. I don't fucking like cocaine, by the way. I don't like stuff. Like I don't think it's a nice drug at all. But if people want to use it in their own home and not harm anyone, like I do not want to stop you from doing that, but I would like you to just have a fucking clean supply of it and not have to worry about it being laced with something that can very easily kill you. And that's a waste of a life. Like how many people have done cocaine just on a random evening? They aren't reprobates or criminals. Like fuck me, that could have happened to anyone in a illicit black market.
This is it.
Yeah,
people are being poisoned. They are dying not from the choice they have made to consume that drug, but from the adulterant that is in that supply, or from a lack of care that is created, from a lack of empathy, because of a lack of understanding of why people are suffering and dependent on certain substances and exhibiting behaviors that, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, actually, I'm sorry. If you'd have suffered the way they have and lived their fucking life, you'd be doing exactly the same fucking thing. It's that loss of humanity, as we spoke of before. And I think Canada's an interesting one because it's paradox of its liberal politeness now with its legal weed and its kind of slow acceptance towards mushrooms and the psychedelic compounds. It's going to be an interesting proving ground for what the potential post-prohibition paradigm looks like. And obviously the trucker protest and all of this. And I'm going to have to say it because otherwise my mate's going to be annoyed at me if I've not got the sentence Justin Trudeau into this podcast. But yeah, that's the anomaly, I suppose. But other than that, I think that, Canada is a real interesting model to observe at the minute. And I think because of its transparency and openness in the majority, obviously there are these extreme neoliberalist, frankly, psychopath, corporate, sycophant fucks, but we park them. The majority is still wanting to share this information. They want to create these communities. They want these consumption spaces. They want the access to the products. They want to share the process. They're not interested necessarily in patenting everything. They want everyone else to raise their game. And the way you do that is you share. How do you do that? I'll show you. Come with me. Do you know what I mean? That's so I think that Canada over America has potentially got that opportunity to do it in a way that raises at least the Canadian population, if nothing else. Even if they all don't want to share with the rest of us, at least to collect together, you might be the first nation to actually get it. I mean, obviously you got some stiff competition coming out of the Far East at the minute in Asia, but I think maybe.
We can do with some good leadership that can truly unite, not say you're uniting, but actually dividing. Leave the narcissism at the door, and people that genuinely want to unite people and genuinely want to help people. I don't know who that is, based on the political parties that I see.
It's difficult because they're both. It's almost like they're both Venn diagrams drawn over humanity. Whereas I feel like the political party that would win is just the one that comes in and goes, right, how far left are you? Draw that line. How far right are you? Draw that line. That's our politics. We're for those people. We're going to work out the best policy for all of them, to house them, to feed them, for their ecology, for the environment, for the economy. Do you know what I mean? We're just resource-based economies. We're actually going to understand what we have, what we need, and what we need to do to provide that. And then from that, then we go. That to me is not too absurd. But it's against the ideology of a certain bunch of individuals, in this case, neoliberalists, capitalists, they want to be the billionaires, they want to be the trillionaires, they want the blood sport and the lifestyle of luxury and affluence that can only exist if there is abject poverty, child slave labor, if there is the ecological collapse, there's fucking disaster capitalism. All of these mechanisms need to exist for them to chase that Bugatti, for them to be able to sniff that gram of coke, to pay for those fucking
fentanyl free.
Yeah, to live in that different. They're playing a game. But the consequences of that are the destruction of everyone else, and then people chasing that false idolship, that celebrity, that 15-minute of fame, as Warhol described it. It's this hollow, vapid emptiness. As Jim Carrey says, that he wishes everybody could have it for a moment to see how pointless it is. I had Melanie Sykes on recently, last week's guest on the podcast, and we discussed the fragility and the fake nature of celebrity. It's hollow. It is fucking empty. Yet we're sold the illusion that we have to get that. And as part of that package, now all it is like a DLC, a downloadable content of cannabis packages available. I can download cannabis into my game of life, put it in there, weed and stuff. But it's still only the algorithm they've created, the game they've created, the rules they've defined. We're still playing it. We're still only seeing the brands they want, the things that do you know what I mean? It's, as you said, we're not here. And I worry that the youth, in a lot of ways, bless you, I know you're doing some good out there. I see some of y'all, but a lot of yours are still, I remember what I was like at that age. I was naive in the most insane of ways that I wasn't aware that I was naive until I wasn't. And then in other ways, I was insane and radical in ways that I couldn't believe until I kind of calmed down a bit. So, by the time that averages out, I worry who owns the world and what it looks like. Because we may not have an oil crisis, but we'll definitely have some other fucking crises if these fuckers are not recognizing the carbon sequestration potential of this, the battery storage potential of this, the petroleum replacing potential of this. Then we're going to be in some problems. Yeah, they might have yachts and whatever else and have made their billions, but the billions will be in trouble around the world. And yeah,
that may be the case. Yeah. I don't know, but a lot of these users are very smart. They're like smarter in many things that we aren't as millennials. Even more they're technologically native. We're just kind of like on the cusp of that, like how we grew up. But when I think you're probably similar age to me. But I'm 32, and like when I grew up, I had like the Nokia 3210 playing Snake on it, and so we just compare that to an iPhone, right? It's fucking brick, man. You can't break that shit. And the battery life, days. So now
fuck days. I've got one under that bed in my room, and I'll turn it on now and it'll still probably have 2 or 3 fucking bars. Yeah, just unbelievably quality technology, and then intrinsic obsolescence has worked its way into there a little bit. Sorry, so
I honestly, I don't know too many youngsters that well enough to kind of like to get too much of a feel on that. I wouldn't know to comment on it, but I have hope for the future. And I've been through, I'm sure a lot of us have, just like the overwhelming feel of the oppression and the events that have unfolded over the last couple of years. But it just comes full circle, and it just comes back to like yourself. And like, I can't stress enough, take all your clothes off and just go and jump in a body of water, and then take some mushrooms. It all just comes back to yourself and your choice to just like let that shit go and live your life.
I was just going to interject and say that the RNL lifeguard in me that I didn't know was there was saying, check the temperature of the body of water first, because cold shock is real, folks. You jump into a cold body of water that you are not expecting, you can end up gasping and you lose your breath and can end up in a troublesome position. So to always do check the temperature of the thing you're going to fucking jump into. Other than that, wild
I can't say I do that, but I would definitely recommend people to do that.
I would recommend you do it, especially on a hot day, dude. If you jump from your hot body into a cold body of water, the reaction of breathlessness, because the instinct is to gasp. So your body goes, and you take in water, and if you've panicked and driven yourself, even as strong swimmers can end up in trouble with it. So it is just something to be mindful of.
And I'll just, throw in a disclaimer that, don't do anything that I've said in this podcast, and I can't be held liable for. But, you can actually train in just like cold water, cold exposure. I used to find when I jumped into water, I remember that feeling. It would just completely take my breath away. And now I don't do the ice baths, but I do try and take quite regular cold showers. I'll have a hot shower to begin with. I can wash myself, and then I just go it to cold. And if you can get past the moment of just being really unpleasant and wanting to leave, it takes about a minute and a half, and it's a long time. That time goes slowly. And then you get your breathing under control, and then you'll just be fucking dancing, singing like primal under that cold water, and it feels incredible. And if you do that like at least semi-regularly, then you can jump into a body of water. Well, like I jump in, and that doesn't happen to me anymore. And I actually jumped into Anderson Lake in Pemberton at this facility visit. It's like a glacial fed lake, and it was freaking cold. There was a beautiful dock, and there was a ladder as well. So I was like, okay, it's a clean jump in, get out on the ladder. So yeah, we went in for that and then jumped in a second time just for good measure. And it was extremely cold. I wouldn't have wanted to spend like much time in that water because I could already feel like the body starting to slow down and stuff. But just as a quick kind of refresh, it was so therapeutic, cleans out the cobwebs in your mind. Just, it's like the opposite of like a cheap, quick dopamine hit, which would get fucking plastered with through our phones and like sugary processed foods and instant TV and internet like all the time. It's like an anti one of that. Like, you know, you do something, you're like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this. You're like, no, just do it. And you jump in and you feel incredible. So yeah, I'm a big advocate.
It's a neurohormonic response, so it's going to be triggering something along like neuroadrenaline and things like that because you're having such a like, rah, and it's that present, the stimulation. And yeah, I found it when I was training for a while at the gym and leg day, and no matter what, I'd always come back and do a cold bath. And the longer I could submerge and the better I could do with it. When I got out, once I kind of I'd shake a bit, but it was euphoric, like my muscles were singing. It was like, oh, like it was just such a, like, and the rise back to warmth was just such a, almost quite addictive experience, really, in some ways. I can see why, especially there is such a school of following for the Wim Hof method and other kind of ways of sort of training and extending the body's capabilities. Because again, it's that honing of a skill, that ability to, you know, understand and master yourself. That is the ultimate form of coming to consciousness, of to be able to understand how much your body can lift, how far you can swim, how long you can run, you know, to actually understand yourself means that you can again make those informed decisions. So if you then want to go, well, actually I can go somewhere where there's a bear because I'm pretty fucking confident I can outrun that bear. I'm not suggesting anybody fucking does it, but you know what I mean? It was a bad example. But do you know what I mean? It was a really bad example. My point is that to know your limits, and if you know your limits, then from that you can make those again in those informed decisions to take you back to then drugs 100%. Or driving or swimming or wild camping or whatever it is.
It's so important because we're living in this circle of constant fear. So like we're never trying to see what those limits are, and you know it's okay to fail and to try and get better at things and not have to master something like instant gratification. But it's like we so rarely have to do things. Okay, this, besides capitalism and like the shitty fucking jobs that many people are fucking forced to work for like low salaries, it's fucking horrible symptom of the capitalistic world we're living in. But like, you know, the rest of the life, like we just have everything like instantly. We don't have to really like work for anything. Like, we don't have to hunt our own food and like create a fire and then like think about shelter and all of this kind of stuff. But you need balance. You need to like struggle sometimes. You need to kind of do things that you don't want to do because you realize that they're good for you. And so if you just constantly take the easy route, then you become soft in like mind, body, physical, everything. It's all linked. And so like cold water for me just seems like a really convenient, easy way that you can just like get that little bit of discipline in your mind of doing something that you don't necessarily, it's going to be a bit uncomfortable perhaps, but you know is a good thing. It's a really easy one just to do because it's like, well, just fucking go and do it in the shower now.
Yeah, and it's a discipline you can build each day, and with it comes the ability to then expose yourself to the elements. And again, a mastery of self builds confidence, builds awareness, builds respect as well. It's one of the things that you hear paradoxically, the people that then don't sort of understand the idea of then training for any combat sport or for any kind of martial art or whatever, is that you then learn, once you learn you can hurt somebody, unless you're a cunt, and I keep saying that, but I really mean it in this context, you don't then want to hurt someone. You will try and avoid fights. You don't then go out and go, all right, I want to show what I can do. No, you know you can use it when you need to, but you don't seek to use it. And I think that is, again, to go back to the driving and the drugs, and the same should be true of dietary responsibility for our individual health and all of these other responsibilities and relationships and core primal connections to the basic elements of humanity that have been hijacked from us and sold back to us, again, drip by drip. And they've snuck in all of these, this sugar and oils and all of these different additives and preservatives that are differently addictive and modify us, and then the changes through algorithmic ordered advertising, and they're stimulating us for different things at different times through iconography and symbology and, again, advertising. It's all just woof. So again, like when you sit in cold water, you are snapping yourself. People do it when you've drank too much, you feel a bit weird, you haven't just slept, you're not waking up, you've taken too many drugs. You splash water in your face because what you're trying to do is shock yourself to yourself. You're almost trying to get rid of all of the other games and all of the tabs that are open in your mind and go back to the. So if you can train that experience or that space, it's like strengthening, I guess, a muscle, like I guess the mind palace. I don't know why Dreamcatcher, that Stephen King fucking novel movie, came into my head there, but creating a space that you can go to at any given moment, that you then almost don't need the cold water. And this is what the technique of then learning with the breathing alongside of it. And then you actually get to a point of, same with meditation, of Buddhists that have practiced meditation for decades. They can like drop the heart rate in a moment. They can control physical attributes of their body, the way blood flows, the muscle the density without tension. And it's such a sense of regulation because they've mastered themselves. And I'm not saying everyone spends 20 years to be able to do that, but it just shows these techniques.
Or maybe we should. Maybe that's the answer. 20 years we all just train and meditate, and then we rise up with our superpowers.
But then if ever, again, it's one thing of the joke of said, if got every kid to meditate within a few generations, there'd be no anger, because everyone would just be like Canadians on like the best MDMA ever. Like, or the cliched Canadian image on like the best, just everyone's like, just a map, he's a cool, everything's great, it's lovely, everything's fine, everything's the best thing ever. That's what I kind of want life to be. And I know that's idyllic, but most of the conflicts that exist now are because of the traumas either we carry around historically, culturally, individually, from the dogma, the burdens of the bullying that we carry in social pressures and all the rest of it from ancestors and from culture. To do what? To be anything other than what we're supposed to be, which is our fucking selves. We need to get out of our own fucking way. And I think, meditation is a good way towards that. Mushrooms, a good way towards that. Just the simplest way, folks. Go spend some time around trees. That's the most pseudo-spiritual thing you'll ever hear me say, or like scientific thing. Go spend some fucking time around trees. Trees will literally make you feel better. In just some way, nature will commune with you. Understand like the appreciation of phyllotaxis, the different expressions of the leaf patterns, understand the different taxonomy of trees, and go watch a fallen tree become 4 trees in the woods. As Francis said before, go find a corpse of an animal with a fucking mushroom growing through it that's then got bite marks in it, and see that circle of life beautifully, painfully, wonderfully encapsulated in front of you. Go experience that nature, because that is far more of who we are than the car we drive, than the concrete cage we live in, than the clothes that we wear, than, the fact that we're talking of this technology, that I'm producing this podcast. All of this is fun. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. But this is not what we were designed for. And I'm not saying necessarily designed for, evolved for. It's going to take us a long time to evolve for smartphones and the rest of it. And by then, hopefully, we're on to the next fucking thing anyway. But
it'll be in the brain, bro. The Neuralink stuff. Okay, they already they had the World Economic Forum thing recently in Davos. And was it the chairman of Siemens, I think, was saying 2030? It's like people won't have phones anymore. It'll just be...
The people that put it in their head, that's scary, because the Tesla thing was scary enough, right? So all the people who went, crypto and Tesla's all sweet. And then Russia, they went, all right, we're going to turn off the Teslas and we're just going to take your crypto. It's like, well, but this was the thing that was supposed to protect me. Like, so again, if that's in your head and then you just go, we're just going to turn you off. that is beyond terrifying to me. Of just because, again, it's like it's with the phone now. You know, the cameras and the microphone can be live at any point. They can hack you at any point and turn you on at any fucking point. Everybody knows this, but we just fucking accept it. What happens when that's in your head? Everything you look at, everything you can't have any intimate moment. You can't speak. I mean, you then think of the vibration technology that the military have had for a while. They've been able to take impulses in the side of, I can't remember, you not jugular, but you call this section, and that can then register speech patterns. So you can and mouth the words silently, and it creates a communication system. Imagine the way that integrated, so that you would not be able to whisper to somebody and be quieting it out. You would not be able to write something because it would know what your hand is doing. You would not be able to think something because it would know what you think. It would be I can't think of anything more pervasive and terrifying, and I'm sorry if I've got a bit hyper, but the guy...
No, very invasive, for sure, man.
People are going to do that. People will, like, what's that? The Entire History of You. The Black Mirror episode, The Entire History of You. And they've all got those little switches, and they've all got in the head and the rewind. And go, actually, you did say, and he puts it on the telly. And that...
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Like, that was bad enough of just our interpersonal relationships. That didn't even get a chance to explore what happens when the government's worse, when the corporations, worse, when the investment firms have all of that.
Yeah. Well, right now, you can turn your phone off. You can put it in a drawer, and you can go outside. And by the way, when you go outside in nature, like we've been talking, like don't be on your phone. Like dedicate some time to nature and go off the beaten path. That's where all the cool shit is. Just a little bit.
Get a bit of separation anxiety from your phone, because the other side of it is you're saying, you can turn it off and put it in the drawer, but it's not like those Nokias back in the day. You could take that battery out. You could go put them two different. That would never list. That was not doing shit. You would hit every electrical device in your house would go off when you were getting a text message. There was no way they could do the kind of mass surveillance they would do now on that technology, because everything would constantly go to I think my phone's acting weird. Like it's just.
You can tell the future I'm getting a message.
Oh, that's going to be the one. Yeah, I'm getting a migraine. I must. Oh, I got to tweet. Oh, it's fine.
Imagine malware. Like you could upload fucking harmful shit.
Oh my god!
Jesus Christ.
There was an article. We're getting a bit off topic. We're going to wrap up soon, but I'm enjoying the flow of this. So we'll a few more of these anecdotes. There was a Vice article a while ago about chastity belts, male chastity belts, and a guy had basically got stuck in a male chastity belt that was connected to his smartphone, and it got hacked. And they were basically forcing him to ransom through Bitcoin to literally release his dick.
Oh no! Come on.
So again, those. Can you imagine those?
How do you find yourself in that position? Like, oh shit, that's a tough one, isn't it? You've got no choice.
Yeah, that's like, because again, like the manufacturers didn't build a failsafe into it. The story got that big. Like, obviously, I think Vice contacted the people, and they actually then created this. Ironically, they called it a backdoor system to get into it. But again, it just shows we have. It's the Jeff Goldblum thing of we've done the thing, we've built it, and we've packaged it, and we've sold it before we've thought of like, well, should we? Should we a minute? Like, what was wrong with the thing before this? Innovation is all well and good, but innovation for innovation's sake that just becomes innovation that it isn't innovative is idiocy. Is idiocy. It's marketing. It's gimmicks. So yeah, your iPhone. Where are we on 13 now? I think we're on 13. 13 sounds about right.
Fuck knows.
Like, really? Is it that much better? If Apple wasn't breaking your shit every 2 iterations of the iPhone, would there really be a fucking problem with this?
No. Cameras are getting pretty wild on there though. Like that scares me. That's the side of it.
I agree, but the camera should be dumb. It should be a DSLR or something. A camera that is like, it's not internet connected. It's not trying to you think of, look at how great this iPhone camera is. Yeah. So when there's thousands of you walking through one area, holding your phone up because you're touching your screen, and you've got 17 cameras the other side, constantly mapping and selling the data of your environment to everybody, to these third-party companies. One of the things that scared me most is a lovely tidbit for y'all to go to sleep on tonight. BlackRock, we were talking about earlier, they are technically the world's largest data collection service on the planet, because basically as part of that 20 trillion of owning majority stakes in these companies of all aspects, is they get access to data, or they get to create products and services and proxies that allow them to siphon off that data. And from that data, guess what they get if we're able to create a project called, I'm going to call it Aladdin. I think it's called Aladdin. I'm going to double check that it's called Aladdin, but it is a supercomputer that basically makes speculative calculations on where to then invest. So they've now made a machine that is learning through the data we're creating, through the behavior it's manipulating, is into doing through their algorithmic control, to then feed back into this thing. And it's going to become to the point where all human behavior is mapped by this one machine.
The AI is coming. It's coming for us.
It's here. It is. Yeah. It is Aladdin. Go research Aladdin. Built by BlackRock Solutions. It's a risk management, the risk management division of the investment firm. And it now handles 11 trillion in assets. About 7% of all trades in the world run through Aladdin. And this is getting more every fucking year. And they're coming for cannabis. They're coming for fucking psilocybin. They're coming for ketamine, for DMT, for LSD. They're coming for drug culture, and they will erase it because they don't want a drug culture. They want drug consumers. They want us apathetic. They want the most minimal dosage, and they want us to not have these revelatory experiences of euphoria, of ecstasy, of true bliss, to want to strip off and go skinny dipping at midnight, to want to go and chant round a fire, to, dance on coals, to, climb mountains, to the things that these drugs drive us to do. I don't mean in mania, but I mean in passion and through love. That is our culture and our heritage and your birthright. You go and formulate your relationship. Don't wait for a man in a white coat to tell you, well, according to our clipboard and our cert, you're now eligible. No, you go fucking forge your relationship with these things sensibly. Start slowly, test, ensure you know your supply, but it is your birthright. If it's their right to produce and commodify these things and sell them back to you, it is for you to consume them and to form your relationship, because that is how we unify. That is how we collectivize, to grow beyond our left-wing biases, to grow beyond our false dichotomies and divisions that they've set upon us, to recognize that right now, I don't need to agree with you. I love you. I see you. I respect you. I honor you. I don't need to compete with you. That's it, folks. It's as simple as that. And that might sound too fucking socialist or whatever other fucking label you want to ascribe to it. But that's my philosophy. And I don't have a terminology for it yet. But if you want to join it, subscribe below. No, I don't know. Fucking figure it out. Figure it out. Go to the woods, as we're saying. Literally, go find yourself, because that's the only way we'll find each other.
Bravo. Can't add anything more to that, my man. I agree 100%.
Yeah, that was a good flow. I like that.
But before we wrap this up, I just want to say thank you, by the way, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's I love these catch ups, and you're one of the voices in the UK. It's a voice of reason, voice of insight. You've been consistently there, and that's fucking awesome. We need more of this, and that's great.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'm here for a while. I may come visit yourself and get around the world, hopefully at some point. But
fuck yeah, buddy.
I believe
there's a spot here for you.
I appreciate it. I'll come help you grow some 4 trees. I suppose we'll ask the question I'm supposed to ask everybody at the end. I just say I'm supposed to. I just typically do. What does the future hold for you, man?
Short term, building out these microscope workshops. The first one's going to be on the 5th of July. We've got a German TV network coming to cover Tom, who's German and making waves in the industry here. And so they're going to be filming our microscope workshop. It's going to be with a few of our local retail cannabis stores. So we're doing a lot of prep for that. And the launch of the online course. So that's kind of in my immediate future. And for the next few years, I'm here just working on my projects, just trying to be well, trying to learn, trying to improve my my gardening skills, my DIY skills. That's all I'm looking at right now, man, is staying healthy, happy, and trying to stay in a place where I get to enjoy life and work on projects that are meaningful to me and projects that I believe in and bring value to the world. So that's where my head's at. That's where I hope my head is at for the foreseeable future.
That's lush. That's lush. Yeah, I hope to continue to enjoy living vicariously through your Instagram, because fuck me, you live in a beautiful part of the world. For anybody who get the chance, put Canada on your list. Seriously, if you're a drug tourist, if that's your only excuse to travel, but if you enjoy nature as well, yeah, just Canada. Beautiful country, honestly beautiful and so vast. And yeah, I would say the vast majority of the population and beautiful people. So go check it out. Yeah, much appreciated, brother. I will include links to like Urbanistic, some of the things that we've referenced as well, including a wonderful rap video. Rap link as well. So yeah, just thank you very much for joining me. Really appreciate it. And go enjoy your Canadian day. And I'm going to enjoy my very early British morning.
Lovely. Thank you, Simpa. It was really great to catch up with you.
Likewise, man. It's been a privilege. I'll let you jump out if you want, and I'll do housekeeping and then wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. Peace.
All right, man.
All right. See you
Thanks,
later, man.
dude. Speak soon.
All right. All the best.
Bye.
Peace and love, man. Bye. Well, there you go, folks. That was Francis Hall. Yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation. I'm a bit tired. Maybe I hope that doesn't show the fact that it is now 1 p.m. in the UK. But yeah, I always enjoy catching up with Francis. It's great to have, a Brit on the inside of the Canadian system, as they say, to have that insight, to have that firsthand knowledge and experience. And yeah, we catch up as regular as we can, and it's great to understand how it's evolving over there and to be able to report back to yourselves, to kind of show you, the positives, the negatives, and to discuss, all of the kind of different things that we have this evening. I hope some of the topics haven't been too scary or too intimidating. Yeah. I don't want to say, I'm going to have to say the name again, but yeah, BlackRock and Vanguard are two of the most menacing investment vessels on the planet that are probably going to end up owning and operating every fucking thing if we don't pull our fingers out. So I don't know. I'm not calling for a revolution because I don't fucking know how we're going to revolt. I don't know what we're going to do. But yeah, let's conspire. Let's get together. Let's figure this shit out. So please do like, share, subscribe. If you've enjoyed this enough to want to support this little project of mine, please do check us out on patreon.com/Simpa Life. Everywhere on social media at Simpa Life. As you can see, I've got this new lovely studio space. I will be creating a lot more content. I will be upgrading some of the equipment, changing the lighting and whatever else, and just trying to generally create a better content creation space. I've got a lot of different series and ideas and concepts that I want to work on. Yeah, get the website up and finished. So that's all a lot easier to use and updated with the restart of Last Week in Weed and a few other blog series. So do check that out in the coming weeks and months. Having some wonderful conversations with some guests at the minute. So I'm not going to jinx it by giving you some names, but if I pull it off, be good. Actually, I'm going to be a teaser for you. One of them is an author of one of those books, and I don't think there's a quality enough image of you to be able to read that. So that's probably no further of a clue. Anyway, folks, I'll be back next week with somebody. I don't have a piece of paper that tells me yet. A person, a human, I imagine, that speaks English. I would also imagine. That's about as ambiguous as I can be. All right. Peace and love, folks.